Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto has Dark Phoenix bloodline chunin exams. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by White Angel of Auralon and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Deception. A person clad in dark gray was rushing from one shadow of a house to another shadow. Nobody noticed as the person was fast. Nothing could be noticed that would identify the person. Just as it was the intention of said person. If he would be identified, there would be massive accusations about him doing something illegal. Which would only result in him getting dragged to the old man again. No, he had other plans tonight. The empty streets of his home village, he used the term home very loosely, were working well for his plans. Finally he reached his hideout. He pressed a stone in a wall and said wall glided aside soundlessly, the wonders of silencing seals, and let him in. As soon as he had walked inside, the wall slid back, pretending nothing of interest could be found there. The person lit a lantern and now features could be identified. The person was about 1.50 m in height, slim, male and wearing dark gray pants that were taped with black bandages at the ankles and a long-sleeved gray shirt that was kept in place with gray arm guards. He wore black gloves with dull metal plates on the back. His head was hidden by a hood and a mask that only left his eyes uncovered. Now he pulled the mask from his lower face and the hood down. Spiky yellow hair was revealed as were 3 whisker-like birthmarks on the boy's cheeks. He walked down the stairs behind the disguised door and reached a room after 5 minutes of walking down. He lit the lights and now the whole room was visible. The room was massive. It was rectangular and divided in 6 parts by shoulder-high walls. Only one part was closed up completely, the one on the far left. 4 parts were about the same size and 2 were double their size. He walked over to a wall in one of the smaller parts and took 3 sealing scrolls out of his pouch on his belt. He unrolled one scroll that was labeled with weapons and began unsealing the contents. Several shuriken and kunai, 1 short sword, 2 katanas, 4 kataches, a chain sickle, a container with senbons, 2 windmill shuriken and 4 daggers were taken out of the sealing scroll and placed, sorted by kinds, in a shelf where other weapons were stored. The bigger weapons like the swords in various sizes went on the wall next to the shelf. Then the boy walked to another shelf in the neighboring part which was loaded with scrolls of different kinds. The single shelves were labeled with the category of the information in the scrolls. One shelf had a sign for water, 1 for wind, 1 for fire, 1 for earth and 1 for lightning. Then there were non-elemental, taijutsu, kinjutsu, fuinjutsu, clan techniques, politics and noble families, geography, survival, and strategy. He again unsealed the contents of the second scroll and sorted the scrolls he took out into the respective categories. He would need to look them over later, but now he had other things to do. The last scroll he took out revealed to hold bags that jingled when they were moved. There were coins in them. Other bags rustled, there were bills in them. He stored the money in the bags in a safe next to the shelf with the scrolls. A good haul tonight. The boy said to himself. I really like chunin exams. I always get many new supplies that way. He went to the part that was on the farthest right side of the room. There was a small bathroom with a shower, a sink, a toilet and a bathtub in the back part and a kitchen in the front part. He turned the shower on and while he waited for the water to get warm, he undressed. He tested the water and then stepped under the shower. He enjoyed the warm water for some time before he took the shower foam and cleaned his body. When he had washed it off, he shampooed his hair. Once he was clean, he turned off the water, walked out of the shower and took a towel from a stand. He dried his body and his hair before putting on night clothes. The part opposite the bathroom, the one completely separate from the rest of the room, was a bedroom with furniture he had made himself. He had a wardrobe, a bed, a night table and chest of drawers. The carpet, the blanket, the pillows and the mattress he had bought under a transformation jutsu. Nobody, not even the old man Hokage knew about this hideout. Well, it was underground and therefore no natural light got inside, it was safe. A fact no other place in the whole village could claim to be for the boy. The least of all his official residents. Well, if anybody would look for him they would only find a shadow clone of his lying in the bed, pretending to be him. It was a really big stroke of luck that he had the habit of observing the true genin tests of the Jonin senseis. 3 years ago, when he had been 9, he had watched a strange Jonin with spiky silver hair and a face mask like his, who only had one eye unveiled of his whole face, using the jutsu. First he had thought it was the normal clone the academy taught, but it was different as the clone could attack like the original. He had seen the hand seal the Jonin used and then begun training the jutsu. Shadow clone jutsu had become his favorite jutsu. First, he could do much more with the support of shadow clones. Second, he had found out after 2 weeks after finally managing to do the jutsu that whenever one of his clones dispelled, he and the other clones got the memories of the dispelled clone. It had helped him in his training immensely. The village was completely against him, that much he knew since he was a little boy. There were perhaps a handful of people that didn't hate him outright. He didn't know how often he had been in the hospital because of their hatred. But he had found ways to avoid it. He knew the only way to not be beaten up anymore was getting stronger than the ones who beat him. He didn't care if he hurt them anymore. Those who attacked him were going to pay. But getting strong didn't happen overnight, and he also needed to cover all his bases to not be executed on orders of the council, his biggest enemies in the village. He had found out the reason for their hatred 5 years ago. He had become smarter after stealing scrolls and books from old, unused storages in the academy. In his mind it wasn't wrong what he did, it was simply to survive in this screwed up village. While the Hokage was one of the few that didn't hate him and protected him, otherwise he was sure he would already be dead, he was too old and tired to do his job properly. Naruto Uzumaki, or rather Namikaze, even if nobody knew he had figured that out, was the container of the Kyuubi, the nine-tailed fox that had attacked the village on the day he had been born. And for some reason the whole village had been informed about that fact and hated him for the connection with the fox. As if he had chosen to become the container of that demon. But no, they saw him as the fox. Stupid bastards. Even he with his self-taught knowledge and sealing knew that he and the fox were two separate entities. One day when he had been cleaning the storage rooms in the Hokage Tower after a prank, his only real way to show his frustration with the village, he had found a box with the kanji for fourth on it. He had freed the box of dust when a badly placed Nadachi fell from an upper shelf and nicked his arm. Some of the blood from the wound dropped on the seal that kept the box closed and the seal opened much to Naruto's surprise. He quickly bandaged the wound on his arm with the already ruined sleeve of his jacket and then opened the box. He found a few personal things the yondaime had left. A marriage certificate and his own birth certificate which stated that his parents were Minato Namikaze and Kushina Namikaze ni Uzumaki. He had been shocked to find that out but knew he only would have this one chance to see if his father and mother had left him something. For some reason the Hokage had lied to him that he didn't know who his parents were. He was hurt that the old man had lied to him and decided to not tell him that he knew now. In the box were some documents for bank accounts. He saw that he should have inherited quite a fortune, the deed to a bit of land on the outskirts of Konoha. He would check the place out later he decided, and some pictures of his parents, those he took and hid them on his body. He guessed that if there was still a house left much would be kept there. Checking out the place had been a really good idea. He found a small house, only the ground floor, first floor and a basement, but it was obvious that the one responsible for the interior had chosen it with love to detail. Finding the house had been difficult as it had been hidden with seals again, no wonder with his dad's reputation as a genius, but after 4 hours of searching, he had found the seal that led him inside. He found a small shelf of jutsus, many notes on sealing with the Uzumaki spiral on them, a book about the Uzumaki clan of Whirlpool Country, and one about the Namikaze clan of Fire Country. By now he had read the 2 books and knew his clan's histories. It made him all the more resentful towards Konoha's general population. He should have been treated like royalty. Even if he would have been happy enough to be treated like everybody else. From the book of the Namikaze clan he found out that the daughter of the Nidaime Hokage had married the heir of the Namikaze clan, which made his father the grandson of the Nidaime and himself his great-grandson. The Shodai was his great-granduncle. The only Hokage he wasn't related with was the Sandaime, and even the old man treated him like a second grandson. He was also related to the Shodai's wife, Mito, who had been born in Uzumaki and married Hashirama Senju in a political marriage to strengthen the bonds between Konoha and Uzushio, more than the distant relationship between the Senju and the Uzumaki already did. Mito Uzumaki had been his mother's grandaunt. He also had found both his parents' journals which informed him that since Mito, it had always been in Uzumaki who contained the Kyuubi. His mother had written how she had come to Konoha to take over for the old Mito. How she hadn't been ostracized for the fox as nobody but the Sandaime and the highest advisors knew of it. Why the hell hadn't they done the same for him? Why let the villagers know that he was a Jinchuriki? It made no sense. He lifted the blanket of his bed and climbed into the bed. He lay down after setting the alarm clock. He looked at the picture of his parents on the nightstand and smiled. He would have to be at the academy the next morning and he didn't want to get too much unwanted attention. While he maintained the image of an idiot, it was simply safer to let the villagers think he wasn't a threat until he was ready to just give them hell. He didn't skip classes unless he was thrown out. It had been the constant attempts on sabotage that had him develop his resentments against the village. If he could only get away, but he knew that wouldn't be allowed and he couldn't escape the Anbu. No, he first needed to get to that level. Let them all underestimate him. As long as the Hokage kept the worst attacks at bay, he would persevere. There hadn't been any serious attacks in 5 years. Logical as the most vicious attackers had always been the Uchiha. But with them controlling the military police there had been nothing done against them. Officially, if one of the attackers had been caught they had been disciplined, but unofficially he knew that they got away with it. He had been one of the few people to be happy about the Uchiha massacre. In his opinion Itachi Uchiha had done a good deed killing them all. And he himself had also profited. He had already found his current hideout 3 weeks prior to the Uchiha massacre. It had been a big coincidence. He had run from another mob of drunken villagers when he had been looking for a hiding place in the narrow alley. He had leaned against the stone that activated the mechanism, with the stone being really low in the wall. It was no wonder that the place hadn't been found already and had fallen back into the dark corridor, only for the wall to slide back. At first he had panicked in the dark, then he had calmed down and lit a match to see where he was. The lantern had been there already, and he had lit it to explore the place. The whole underground room had been packed with some creepy things. He had thrown most of them out after getting over his queasy stomach, and many useful things. Some of the things were horrible. Like body parts in glasses with some fluid to preserve them. Thankfully those had been really few. Perhaps 10 or so. The other things were much more useful to him. A shelf with some jutsu scrolls, some weapons, medical equipment, medical scrolls, information on poisons and the said poisons in bottles, and some machines he was pretty sure were used for torturing people. The machines were now stored in the second part of the room on the left side. He stored all the things he didn't really need there but didn't want to throw away. Who knew when something could be useful, even if he didn't know if he would ever go into T&I. The night after the Uchiha massacre he had sneaked into the empty compound and had looked for any leftover scrolls or weapons he could add to his possessions in the secret room. He had found quite a lot of them, even if it could be nowhere near the whole amount of jutsus that the Uchiha had possessed. He had a big sack with him and put them all inside. There was no way he would leave that kind of knowledge behind for the bastard village to profit from when the Uchihas, in his opinion, had to make up a lot to him. Thankfully no guards were placed around the compound so it was easy to sneak in there. They were all busy with hunting the culprit. In that night he had got 27 scrolls with jutsus of all kinds. Most were fire jutsus. He didn't want to risk getting caught by accident and returned to his hideout. Over the coming weeks he had gone to the Uchiha compound twice more, but the cleaning crews had obviously already collected the remaining good things. Well, he had got a good haul himself and now had a lot of jutsus he could learn. But the scrolls of the hideout, his stolen scrolls and books from the academy and the Uchiha scrolls he learned a lot about Taijutsu. The medical scrolls came in very handy as they explained where a body was most vulnerable. Jinjutsu, he sucked in that area in the beginning, and ninjutsu. He soon realized that his main problem was chakra control. He had so much chakra and so little control that it messed with his jutsus at the academy. Thankfully there was a scroll that described all known chakra control exercises with the medical scrolls. He was really grateful to have found this place. While the previous owner had to be a creep, he obviously had also been a good shinobi. Since then Naruto had trained in the secret room, learned how to prevent the villagers overcharging him, mainly by hunting in the woods for meat and fish, collecting edible plants, and growing some vegetables on a small field he had started 4 miles away from the village in a part of the woods no normal ninja came usually along. The civilians didn't leave the main roads if they traveled outside of Konoha, so his hidden field was safe. He worked out in peace, he knew the exercises by spying on genin teams which were trained by their jonin senseis, trained his weapon techniques as well as it was possible without a training partner, worked through the chakra control exercises, and started on low-level ninjutsu. It was morning and Naruto got ready for the next day of torture. He hated having to pretend being an idiot. He should be praised as a genius, he knew he could beat all the chunin in the village by now and most of the jonin. The only ones he was not so sure about were the elite jonin, the Anbu and of course the Hokage. He was just 12 after all, and while he was strong and had more physical power than all other kids his age, including the boy that imitated Gai Maido, the best Taijutsu master of the village, he was limited in what his body could take. He had the advantage that the Kyuubi healed his injuries overnight, which included his muscles that tore from training. Over the last year he had prepared massively for his chances to get out of the village on missions. It was the last year he would be a civilian. He had played with the idea to graduate early, but his chances were better with his age group. Being the son of the Yondaime Hokage he would have to be able to defend himself against enemies of his father that could recognize him. After some time he had come to the conclusion that that probably was the reason for the lies of the Hokage. The old man always tried to protect him but didn't have that much success. The civilian council had too much political power for the old man to control all parts of the village life. And before he wasn't a ninja, he wouldn't be under the Hokage's power. While the Hokage as his official guardian was always included in his punishments for the pranks, mostly the civilian council tried to screw him over there again. And with the ninja part of the council being mostly neglecting him, there was no chance for him to get back at the civilian council right now. Thankfully the graduation exams were in 2 days. Then he would finally get out of the academy, get a jonin sensei, and could start to show his abilities. Well, depending on the jonin, but he normally could trust the old man to not set him up with another demon hater. There were some jonin that would at least treat him neutrally. He left the room and turned off the lights. He took the lit lantern and walked up to the entrance. There was a spy hole in the wall to let him check if there were any people outside, but normally the narrow alley was empty. There were after all no house entrances in the alley and it was too narrow to really store things. A few trash cans were at one end, but that was it. He opened the wall and stepped out. He was wearing the orange abomination that the only shop owner that had even sold him clothes had thought appropriate clothes for him. Of course he had been overcharged, but the next night he had taken the things he had paid for with the money that had been demanded from him illegally. He always did this. If one shop owner overcharged him or kicked him out, he took what the shop owner owed him or pranked the shop that kicked him out. Of course nobody knew about his compensation. The council would have a field day. But as nobody could prove anything and they never found any of the stolen things in his possession, they had no case, and the Hokage had refused to let them punish him without proof. Since the day he had learned shadow clones, he had sent a shadow clone to pretend to train on a training ground every day. His clone pretended to really suck but to never give up. The only true thing about his personality he showed the village was the never give up attitude. Everything else was faked. Naruto reached the academy and sat down in the back of the room, laying his head on the table and trying to get a bit more sleep. Nobody would really mind it. The only teacher that tried to get him to pay attention was Iruka Yamino. Naruto knew that Iruka also disliked him for the fox, but the chunin was at least professional enough to not let it influence his work. For that attitude alone Naruto respected Iruka. He didn't like him, but he respected him. Naruto woke up again when the class's top Uchiha fangirls, Sakura Haruno and Ino Yamanaka, had their daily loud entry. Really, all that effort for an emo whose only ambition in life was to kill Itachi. And the bastard wasn't even that strong. Sure, for an academy student he was strong, but with all the help he had been offered by several ninja in the village, he should already be chunin by now. He could have graduated 2 years ago if he had chosen so, but he didn't. Naruto knew that Sasuke wasn't as good a ninja as his older brother had been and would never be. Itachi was a rare genius. Smart and powerful. It didn't happen often that those two traits came together in somebody as young as Itachi had been when he graduated. Genin with 7, Chunin with 10, Jonin with 12, and Anbu Captain with 13. That was an impressive record. Sasuke was too obsessed with revenge to reach his full potential. His hatred of Itachi was holding him back. While he trained a lot, he focused on the things his clan had taught him before they were all killed. Which meant he had a solid understanding of the Uchiha Taijutsu style, which depended on the Sharingan, which Sasuke didn't have activated yet. He also knew a C-rank fire jutsu, the great fireball jutsu which Naruto knew the Uchihas had really liked using, when they could get away with it also on him. Sasuke was top in his academics, the basic 3 ninjutsu taught at the academy, and with his thrown weapons. But the whole talking about beating Itachi one day lacked his skills in anything outside that knowledge and skill. He didn't know Jinjutsu, which even Naruto after thousands of collective hours of chakra control training that had become so much easier with shadow clones had been able to learn, didn't have a weapon besides the standard kunai and shuriken he had learned to use in combat. Naruto had chosen to follow the Sandame's example and learn to use a bow staff and also knew how to use a tanto as a backup weapon. He knew nothing about seals, a skill Naruto in the ambition to follow in his parents' footsteps had mastered by now, and his usage of other tools was lacking massively. No, while Sasuke was skilled for a normal ninja of his age, he was far from a genius. That title was given away way too easy nowadays. The Hyuga genius Neji of last year, Sasuke of this year, and probably the other years, had also had a genius in them. Naruto hadn't really cared about it. Now the two cat-fighting girls tried to solve the matter who would be allowed to sit next to their crush. What else was new? If they would have looked they would have noticed that there were 2 seats next to the bastard. And said emo didn't even give them any attention. He just brooded as always. Finally Iruka arrived and sent both girls to seats away from Sasuke and started with repetition for the exams. Naruto would do what was necessary to pass the test, but not much more. He wanted to score low to be put on the same team as Sasuke, the only one that would be guaranteed to be passed. There was simply no way that the precious Uchiha would be allowed to fail his true genin exam. And to keep him happy he would be assigned a strong jonin that could teach him a lot. Well, with Naruto's perfected espionage skills, he would get the same advantages once he got the team to pass. He knew a bit about the jonins that normally took on teams. To pass a test he would only have to know which one he got as a sensei and act accordingly. He even knew what Kakashi Haddock, the strange jonin he had copied the shadow clone jutsu from, wanted from his teams. The man was a great believer in teamwork. Not that hard to achieve if he got the emo to cooperate to pass. The jutsu they were repeating today was the transformation. Well, Naruto had his own version which he used to embarrass Iruka. The sexy jutsu. A real transformation contrary to the normal illusion. Not that anybody knew about this difference. Naruto had created that jutsu to distract pursuers and knock them out. He swore the village was made of over 95% perverts. Iruka was blown back by a giant nosebleed. Naruto then took the safe option and fled the classroom where nearly all the girls wanted to castrate him for using such a jutsu in their presence. He went to Ichiraku's and ordered 7 bowls of ramen. Well, it was part of his mask, Naruto really liked the ramen at Ichiraku's. He disliked the packed ramen that the stores sold. He just had had too much of it when he was younger. It was the only food he could afford and cook with his limited skills. The ramen at Ichiraku's were better and healthier. He got some of the meat, fish and vegetables his body needed from here. Well, there was a lot of salt in the broth, with the Kyuubi's chakra helping keeping him healthy, there was not much to fear. He had started hunting and fishing 2 months after finding the secret room, which gave the fox more nutrients to work with. His vegetable field then added to his diet once his efforts to grow vegetables bore fruit. Naruto learned how to live of the land. With the mild climate in Fire Country, he didn't have to fear about massively cold weather that would make it impossible to grow things. He also collected nuts and fruits from the trees and bushes in the forest to add to his diet. It showed in him finally having a growth spurt. When he had started at the academy he had been one of the smallest children in class. Once he turned 9 he was one of the tallest. Understandable when he saw the pictures of his father. Minato Namikaze had been tall. While getting fresh milk and eggs had been a bit of a problem in the beginning, once he had mastered the transformation jutsu that problem had been solved. He went to buy the things he needed and couldn't hunt or grow in disguise and got them without a problem. He didn't buy everything he needed because he didn't want to give the people that hated him his money. He could do better things with them, like waiting for the merchant caravan that came to Konoha twice a year and buy the things he wanted from them. He had bought his new outfit, one that he would use once he became a ninja, during their last visit. In 1 week and 2 days, the day when the teams were assigned he would present it the first time. Finally it was the day of the graduation exams. Naruto answered just enough questions correctly to pass this part and not get in trouble if he didn't do too well on the ninjutsu part. He didn't know how the teachers would take his clone jutsu. Weapon throwing and jutsu he did average in, it was okay for him to beat a student from a civilian family with his street brawler style. He wouldn't reveal that he was proficient in both the Uzumaki and the Namikaze jutsu styles. That would wait until he was sure nobody could screw him over anymore. Then it was time for the last part. Iruka announced that they would have to show the clone jutsu. Naruto sighed. This was definitely another attempt of the council to screw him over. It was well known that he was lousy at this jutsu. But with all his control training he would be able to deceive them. He went into the room where Iruka and Mizuki were waiting to test him on the jutsu. Naruto, who wanted to graduate, concentrated hard to reduce the amount of chakra he used to the least possible amount he could manage. Clone jutsu. He shouted and a cloud of smoke appeared. When the smoke cleared, there were 20 Narutos that could just be called proper clones. The coloration was a little bit too weak, but they were workable clones. Naruto breathed out in relief. Iruka would accept this, even if it wasn't perfect. Well, that's a surprise, Naruto. There was no need to make so many clones. Iruka said, surprised that Naruto had managed to do the jutsu. He had never got it down before. Well, Iruka-sensei. I trained really hard for this jutsu, and somehow this is the least possible amount of clones I can make, and it is still really hard. Naruto said, rubbing his head embarrassedly. Damn that demon brat. This is an acceptable result. Iruka will pass him now and I can forget my plan to use him to steal the scroll. I was sure he would fail. Mizuki mentally ranted. You definitely improved a lot. You pass, Naruto, even if you should still continue to work on this jutsu until you can make your clones perfect. They need a little bit more color. Iruka commented and held out a headband. Will do, Iruka-sensei, thanks. Naruto said, not even faking his happiness for graduating. Secrets revealed. During the night Naruto was out to see if some stupid clan had thrown away old scrolls again. Really, for all the talks about keeping clan jutsus a secret, they were pretty lax with the scrolls that had their secret jutsu and sometimes training techniques in them. Whenever the scrolls got too old to be used anymore, the clans had somebody copy the content of the scrolls and then threw away the old ones. Instead of burning them directly, they threw them into the trash. Naruto, ever the opportunist, regularly searched the trash cans the day before the trash was collected and destroyed. That was the day the clans threw away those scrolls. Over the years since he had started to do this to even out the advantage the clan ninjas had on him, he had collected quite a lot of scrolls. Naruto now knew perfectly how to fight members of all clans in Konoha. He even could use the gentle fist. It was fairly easy with his vast knowledge of anatomy. While he couldn't see the chakra network without the Byakugan, a chakra strike to a vital organ or a muscle was still fatal for an opponent. And it added to his unpredictable jutsu. After all, nobody would expect a non-Hyuga to know gentle fist. But before he could do his little raid, he got suspicious of a figure that left the Hokage tower with a big scroll on his back. He decided to investigate. He made a shadow clone to continue his trash raid, there was no reason to not do both after all. He stayed in the shadows, his chakra suppressed to not alert the man he followed to his presence. Once he reached a clearing in the forest, the man stopped to gather his breath. That went well. It would have been better if I could have blamed the demon brat, but with the brat passing the exams that plan got blown up. He mumbled. Naruto recognized the voice as the one of Mizuki, his teacher at the academy. So he had planned to trick him into stealing the scroll he had with him. It had to be important that he would risk the theft from the Hokage Tower. Naruto sneaked closer and positioned himself over Mizuki, ready to take him out. While Naruto was tailing Mizuki, the Hokage noticed that the forbidden scroll had been stolen and raised the alarm. Many were accusing Naruto, but an Anbu informed them that Naruto was sleeping in his bed at home. The Hokage sent his ninja out to find the thief and bring back the scroll. Iruka, who had taken to search in the forest west of Konoha, was really surprised to find Mizuki with the scroll. Never would he have thought his old friend would do something like this. Iruka didn't notice Naruto in the tree. "Mizuki, what are you doing?" he shouted enraged. "Oh, look who found me, Iruka. What does it look like? I am taking the scroll to become more powerful than I could ever become in this shitty village. Once I have learned the jutsus in it, I will be invincible. Nobody will be able to stop me, and I will then sell it to the highest bidder," he said. "Sadly, I can't have you tell my little secret, so you sadly have to die." Mizuki attacked Iruka with a windmill shuriken, which Iruka managed to dodge. The two started on Taijutsu, where Iruka was definitely at a disadvantage. Oh, didn't the good little teacher keep up with his Taijutsu training well enough? Mizuki mocked Iruka when he kicked him in the ribs and against a tree. Then he threw the next windmill shuriken at Iruka, who couldn't get up fast enough. But before the shuriken could hit, it was intercepted by a dark figure. Naruto had seen and heard enough to decide he wanted to thwart Mizuki's plans. And with his disguise there was no risk of being identified. Mizuki was shocked to see his attack didn't hit. "Who the hell are you? What do you want?" he yelled at Naruto. "I hate traitors with a passion. That's all," Naruto said and threw the windmill shuriken he had caught before it could hit Iruka back at Mizuki with a lot more speed than it had had before. Mizuki dodged the weapon. "Ah, you missed." He mocked only to be hit from behind and feel the pain from being pierced by his own weapon. "No, I didn't," Naruto calmly said, holding the end of a thread of ninja wire in his hand, which he had quickly tied to the windmill shuriken and therefore been able to pull the weapon back on a new course. He took out a senbon covered in a paralyzing poison and hit Mizuki in the neck with it. He passed out soon after from the blood loss. Iruka managed to get up, only holding his side a bit. "Thank you for the help," he said. "You saved my life." "You're welcome. I think it would be best to get the scroll back to the Hokage." "Can you walk on your own?" Naruto asked. "Yes, I think so. Only a few bruises, nothing serious," he said. "By the way, who are you? I don't think I have seen you in the village before." "That's a secret. If you want to have a name, you can call me Dark Phoenix. That's my codename," Naruto said. He had decided long ago that he would use that codename if he ever was seen. It was his best shot to be left alone if nobody knew what he could do. Dark Phoenix would be thought of as a secret operative of the Hokage, and nobody would make the connection to Naruto Uzumaki, the demon brat. "Oh, I understand," Iruka said. "In a ninja village, people with codenames were nothing special. Hell, the Anbu only operated that way." While Dark Phoenix seemed to be really young, there had been others that strong at his age. Naruto bound Mizuki with wire and asked Iruka if he could carry him as he had the height advantage. They walked back to the village, not being in a hurry after the culprit was caught and knocked out. And it would be easier on Iruka's bruises. Iruka was carrying Mizuki's knocked out body and Naruto had the scroll. When Iruka was briefly looking in another direction, Naruto quickly switched places with a previously made shadow clone. There was no chance he would pass the opportunity to copy the jutsus from the scroll. It wouldn't take long. Because of his sealing training, Naruto could write really fast. Just when they were getting to the edge of the forest, Naruto switched back. Nobody would ever know that he now had the forbidden jutsus of the village. The Hokage was really surprised to see an unknown ninja and Iruka Yamino bringing back the scroll and having a knocked out and bound Mizuki Tauji with them. The masked ninja walked over to him and handed him the forbidden scroll back. Then Iruka started to tell what had happened. "Hokage-sama, I caught up with a thief, Mizuki, in the West Forest, and after he told me he had stolen the scroll to learn the forbidden jutsus and sell the scroll to the highest bidder, once he had done that I attacked him. Over the fight Mizuki managed to beat me into jutsu and I was kicked back into a tree. Mizuki didn't waste time to throw another windmill shuriken at me while I was down. I was sure that that would be my end when Dark Phoenix appeared and intercepted the windmill shuriken Mizuki threw at me. He then threw the windmill shuriken back at Mizuki, but he dodged. Mizuki gloated about having been missed, but Dark Phoenix had tied ninja wire to the shuriken and pulled it back where it hit Mizuki in the back. After that he was knocked out by a senbon that was obviously covered in some poison. He bound him with more ninja wire and we came back here," Iruka reported. The Hokage was confused. He didn't have a ninja that went by the codename Dark Phoenix. But the boy was obviously strong and on their side. The scroll he had been given back was the original. So the boy didn't intend to steal it. Curious. He would have to ask the boy once they were alone. Thank you for the report and bringing back the forbidden scroll, Iruka. That was good work. I think it would be best if you went to the hospital and let them check you if there was anything worse than bruises done. I need you ready for duty. The Hokage said. Iruka bowed and left the room. The Hokage now turned his look to the boy. I would really like to know who you are. I don't know any ninja in my ranks with the codename Dark Phoenix. The Hokage said sternly. If you would send your Anbu guards out of the room, Hokage-sama, I will tell you. I don't want my identity be known to anybody but you. Naruto said politely. Why would I send my guards out for this if you could try to attack me? The Hokage asked. I may be strong, but I am sure you could take me out without problem, Hokage-sama. The only thing I require is a bit of privacy as I am about to reveal 2S rank secrets of the village. Naruto said. The Hokage concentrated his senses on the boy. He felt his chakra being suppressed, so there was no way to get any clues about the boy's identity. What kind of village secrets could the boy know? Well, if he wanted to find out, he would have to take the risk. It was really small after all. He didn't become Hokage while being weak. He gave his guards the sign to leave the office. Once they were out of the office, he activated the privacy seals. So, now we are completely undisturbed. Now tell me who you are. He ordered. Naruto raised his hand slowly to not have the old man attack him and pulled down his lower face mask and his hood. My name is Naruto Namikaze, 3rd Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. He said seriously. To say the Hokage was shocked was an understatement. He had never even suspected that Naruto could know about those two things. Naruto? Is that really you? He asked. Yes, old man. And if I hadn't figured out by now that having me use my dad's name would have got his enemies after me, I would be really pissed with you for lying to me whenever I asked one or both of the two questions I had all my life. Who my parents were and why the villagers all hate me. Naruto stated while clearly showing his displeasure to the Hokage. How do you know that? Who told you? The Hokage asked, furious that somebody would have broken his law. Well, I found out about the fox shortly before the Uchiha massacre. If I see Itachi I will have to thank him for getting rid of my most brutal tormentors. They once caught me and beat me up in a lonely alley. When they left me there bloody and probably thinking that I was unconscious, they talked about how I deserved that because I was the Kyuubi container and should just die. They only didn't kill me directly because you would have found out and taken measures. About my parents I found out when I had to clean your storage room after that prank against the grocer in the north part of the village. I accidentally spilled blood on the seal that was keeping the box with the kanji for 4th on it closed. I looked into the box after the seal opened and found my parents' marriage certificate and my birth certificate. I found out about the location of their house and went there. Well, you can guess the rest of the information I told you, like that I am the 3rd Jinchuriki for the fox when I say that I found both their diaries. Naruto explained. The Hokage looked sad. He hadn't wanted to burden Naruto with the knowledge of the fox at such a young age. You said you figured out my reason for keeping your heritage a secret. How comes you didn't do better at the academy then? From the reports I got, you just passed the exams. Congratulations for that by the way. The Hokage wanted to know. Thanks, but think about it. What do the villagers fear more? A stupid and weak demon or a smart and powerful one? It was simply self-preservation. I am way stronger and smarter than everybody thinks. Naruto said. How strong? The Hokage asked. And how did you manage to keep all the training you must have done a secret? I only saw you training sometimes in the training grounds and then you didn't give the impression of being strong. That was my shadow clone, old man. I learned that jutsu by watching Kakashi Haddock test his team when I was 9. He had them fight against his clone in the true genin test. I had memorized the hand seal and tried to learn that jutsu as it looked really useful, way better than the clone we learn at the academy, which I still have problems with even after thousands of hours of chakra control training. Naruto admitted. That damn jutsu just uses too little chakra. You can do shadow clone jutsu? You know that it is a forbidden jutsu? He asked. No, I didn't until now. I never had any problems except in the beginning when I dispelled too many clones after training at once. That was a terrible headache I got. Do you use your clones for training? The Hokage asked interested. Sure. It's the best training method there is. At least for me. I can make 1,000 clones without ending winded. And with the memory transfer after they dispel they were perfect for me to gain skills, experience and knowledge. Naruto said shrugging his shoulders. But why didn't you tell me? The Hokage asked. I couldn't. If the council had any idea that I was getting strong on my own, they would have tried to stop me. I needed all the time I could get to get strong enough to just flip them the bird once I graduated. You know how they treat me. If I had shown my true skills I would have been able to graduate earlier, that much I know you'd have done for me, but what then? A genin still isn't strong enough to be safe from a bunch of determined civilians, especially not if the council would try to make everything I did look like the fox did it. And there would have been the possibility of a jonin just failing the team I was on under the pretense of us not having the necessary skills. Then it would have been back to the academy, under the control of the civilian council. And then they would have known that I was stronger than they allowed me to become and would have sabotaged me more. No, I needed to have at least high-level chunin skills to be sure to pass the real genin test for sure, or you then having a reason to keep me in the active duty roster, even if the jonin on my team failed me out of hatred for the fox. While I haven't been beaten up since the Uchiha massacre, the civilians do all they can to screw me over. Shops overcharge me or just deny me service, parents tell lies about me to their children, teachers sabotage my education, and the hospital staff only treats me if you force them to. Hell, the only place I can go to eat is Ichiraku's. And I can't live from ramen alone, even if I pretended to do so. Thankfully I don't get the food a clone eats. Alone thinking about eating so much ramen makes me sick. I hate cup ramen by the way. I only like the ramen at Ichiraku's. But you really wonder that I couldn't trust anybody until I was out of the influence of the civilian council. Now that I have graduated Enema Ninja, I am under your jurisdiction and you are one of the few people that don't hate me. Naruto explained. The Hokage understood. He had tried to help Naruto, but he was right. With the council having stolen much of the Hokage's power in the short time between Minato's death and his reinstallation, there wasn't much he could have done for the boy without being accused of favoritism and pushed out of the position of Hokage, leaving Naruto without protection. When Naruto had been found next to the bodies of his dead mother and dying father, Minato had only managed to get his final wish out that Naruto should be treated like the hero he was for keeping the fox imprisoned. He hadn't told the villagers about Naruto's status, but it had somehow got out. His law came too late and the villagers were shouting for Naruto's death. You said you know about the true genin test. The Hokage asked looking over his intertwined hands. Yes, my knowledge was also part of the reason I got results to just pass at the bottom of my class. The only genin to be that is guaranteed to pass is Sasuke. The council will never allow for their precious last Uchiha to fail and order whoever will be his jonin sensei to pass his team. That is the only possibility for me to surely pass. I know that Ino, Shikamaru and Choji will be put on a team as the three clans have had a bond over generations and are always on the same team if three of them are in the same graduation class. The next clan heirs are Hinata, Kiba and Shino. A classical tracking team, therefore they would normally be put in one team. Those six are the only ones in my class that also have the skill to pass the genin test for sure if they get fair senseis. So if I wanted to truly get out of the civilian council's jurisdiction, I needed to get on a team that was sure to pass, aka Sasuke's team. I hate the bastard, but I can push my feelings aside if it means you are the only one who can give me orders. To be honest, if I hadn't been sure that I would have been hunted down and brought back by the Anbu I would have run away years ago. Well I like you, with a whole village hating me that was not a difficult decision. The Hokage seriously needed to make plans to get Naruto to stay in the village, even after he would one day die. He was an old man. He knew that he would probably die before Naruto turned 18. He could understand the boy. He really could. But it was also important for the village to keep the Kyuubi there. And Naruto with his heritage shouldn't even think about leaving the village. This was all so screwed up. He had hoped that once the immediate grief for the fallen was over that people would get back to common sense. Sadly the civilian council never accepted it. I see. As you know your heritage, what do you intend to do? He asked. I will keep it secret until the next chunin exams. By the way, why did Konoha get to host them 2 times in a row? Naruto asked. That question had bothered him for a while. I won't ask how you know that they had been in Konoha last time and will be next time in 6 months. We would normally only have hosted the next exams. It was Kusa's turn originally, but their village couldn't get the premises ready in time and then their leader fell ill. So they asked Konoha to take over as we have the possibilities to organize them quickly. The Hokage answered. Ah, I see. That makes sense. And even if you didn't ask, I will answer how I knew. I just noticed all the foreign shinobi in the village. The only reason for that amount was that we hosted the chunin exams. Naruto explained. The Hokage nodded. That was logical. I have a request by the way. Can you make sure that my team is assigned a sensei that isn't a demon hater? To ask for someone that likes me would be too much to ask, but having at least a sensei that would treat me neutrally would be a huge improvement to the teachers at the academy. With the exception of Iruka sensei. While I know he doesn't like me, he was professional about things and taught me the same like everybody else. I can live with that. Naruto asked. I will see what I can do. What I would like to know how you came up with the codename Dark Phoenix. The Hokage asked. Well, a phoenix is a mythical bird that doesn't really die, but is always reborn from the ashes. Phoenixes are associated with the light and pureness. A dark phoenix also is reborn from the ashes when it dies, but it is not the same bird. It is more like a reincarnation instead of the rebirth of the same bird with the same character. I can be pure, the village made sure of it, but I will not just die. I will rise from the ashes again and again, and nothing they throw at me will keep me down. Naruto stated. The Hokage nodded. I think we still didn't settle the matter of your level of strength. What do you think where you would rank? The Hokage asked. Low to middle Jonin level on a pure skill level. I only miss the body for taking on high level Jonin. That will have to wait until I get older. I have seen pictures of Dad. I should normally get a similar stature like him when I grow up. Naruto replied. Are you sure about that? The Hokage asked shocked. Yes, I have a repertoire of over 100 ninjutsu, tenjinjutsu, which were a pain in the ass to learn by the way, damned fox messing with my control, I'm proficient in both my clan's taijutsu styles, I can use a bow staff and a tanto really well, and know how to use most weapons at least a bit if I ever need to. I am a fuinjutsu master and a poisons and anatomy expert. I guess that should be more than enough to qualify for Jonin level strength. The only thing I lack is experience. That's why I said I was low to middle Jonin level on pure skill levels. I wouldn't last in a real fight against a Jonin yet if my opponent didn't massively underestimated me. I couldn't do any missions after all or I would have been discovered. Naruto listed. Fuinjutsu master. I guess I shouldn't be surprised considering that both your parents were masters in Fuinjutsu and it was the specialty of the Uzumaki clan before they were killed in the Third War. I would like to test your skill level though. Probably the best way to do it would be if you fought against one of my Jonin in your disguise. He pondered. That would be okay, but I only want to reveal my skills to the whole village during the chunin exams. I want them to see who they treated like shit. With all the nobles and important clients present, they can't risk being seen as the scum they are. Naruto stated. Okay, be at training ground 61 tomorrow morning at 10. I will be there with the Jonin I have in mind to test your skills. The Hokage said, more than a little bit worried about the obvious loathing Naruto held for the majority of Konoha. Okay, old man, good night. Naruto said and put his mask and hood back on. Good night, Naruto, and this was really good work. You will be paid for your help in catching Mizuki. The Hokage added. Thanks, I can use the money. Naruto said and left the office. Skills test. Naruto stood in his disguise at training ground 61 and was looking around. He was early by 15 minutes to have a look around. The training ground had been guarded by 2 chunin, which meant it was special. Only the Anbu and Hokage training grounds were guarded. Naruto hadn't cared about the guarded training grounds before. The only one he had been interested in besides the open ones that were farthest away from the village had been training ground 44, better known as the Forest of Death. After each chunin exam he had sneaked in there to see if he could find things that would help with his training like weapons that were still usable, scrolls and money. He reasoned the dead didn't need them anymore. In the beginning he had felt slightly sick at doing it, but with the animosity he was shown by the villagers, he needed some source of weapons, and those would only rust if they were left there for too long. So he had started when he was 9 to go into the Forest of Death when the second part of the chunin exams was over. He had found out that it took at least 3 days before the cleaning crews went through the forest to get the remaining corpses. He guessed they had too much to do with organizational things. So he normally spammed the forest with his clones to find those that had died or other leftover weapons. Mostly they were perfectly workable still, some needed sharpening, but that was no problem. In 5 hours he normally was finished and had collected all the usable things. The only problem in the beginning had been the transport. He couldn't use sealing scrolls in the beginning. That had been the starting point in finding a way to easier transport weapons in the future. He had found in one of the books at the academy that there were sealing scrolls, but he knew he couldn't get one for him because the shopkeepers would never sell him one. So he needed to learn how to make one himself. It took him 3 months to find the necessary books about sealing and then training that specific seal, but he did it. 1.5 years later, when the chunin exams were in Konoha again, he had the equipment and skill to seal weapons on site. His most prized find was a chakra-conductive tanto. Those weapons that could channel chakra were really expensive and rare. At 10 the Hokage came in company of a medic nin and nodded at Naruto. Good morning Dark Phoenix. Good to see you are on time. I have organized for one of my elite jonin to test your skills. He should be here in 10 minutes. This is Arata, he will be on standby to heal you and your opponent if necessary. The Hokage explained. Good morning Hokage-sama. Naruto answered with a bow, keeping up his disguise. That will be great. Who will be testing me? He asked. My son Asuma Sarutobi. The Hokage answered. Naruto nodded. He knew Asuma from some of his visits to the Hokage. While the bearded jonin had been out of the village for some time to protect the fire daimyo as one of the 12 ninja guardians, he had returned some years ago and become a normal jonin for the village. He waited with the Hokage, and 9 minutes later Asuma arrived. Good morning Dad. Why did you call me here? Asuma greeted. Good morning Asuma. Thank you for coming. You are here to assess the skill level of Dark Phoenix here. I have an overall idea what he can do, but there is nothing better than a fight to see what he can do in a real situation. From our estimation he should be around high chunin to low jonin level. The Hokage informed his son. Dark Phoenix, never heard of him. He said, observing the boy. He doesn't seem too old. He said. No, he isn't. He has trained in secret to not gain unwanted attention of different fractions in the village. The Hokage said meaningfully. Asuma assumed he was talking about Root and the council that like to manipulate young talented ninjas to their liking. Okay, what kind of test do you want to have? An all-out fight or going by disciplines? Asuma asked. I think we should go by disciplines. Is that okay with you, Dark Phoenix? The Hokage asked. Of course, Hokage-sama. Naruto answered. With which part should we start? I think I would like to see how you work with weapons first. Asuma himself is a skilled weapon user, so that would be a good starting point. Naruto nodded and unsealed both his tanto and his bow staff. The tanto went on his shoulder and the staff stayed in his hand. Asuma took out his knuckle knives. They watched each other, assessing the stance of their opponent. Then Naruto sprang into action and raced at Asuma. The Hokage was surprised by the speed Naruto showed. That was definitely Jonin level speed. The only Jonins to be faster would probably be Guy and Kakashi. Asuma was ready and blocked the strikes of the bow staff with his knives and fought back. Both weapons clashed time and again. Naruto tried to swipe Asuma's legs with his staff, but he jumped over it without problem. Both opponents evaded and blocked each other's attacks for 5 more minutes before jumping apart. You're definitely good kid, but let's take this up a notch. Asuma said and channeled wind chakra into his blades. Naruto, knowing that his staff wouldn't hold against wind-enhanced blades, quickly put his staff away and drew his tanto. He channeled his own wind chakra into it. So you are a wind element too. Interesting. Let's see how far you have come. Asuma said and attacked. Tanto and knuckle blades crashed, and the more experienced Jonin managed to get a cut on Naruto's arm. Naruto returned the favor by spinning around his axis, disconnecting their weapons and nicking Asuma's pants. Not a bad counter to my attack. Asuma commented. This kid was really good. Judging by his height and stature the boy was about 12 to 14. To be that good with 2 different weapons and being able to manipulate wind chakra was really something. Naruto returned with a new attack but was forced back by the stronger Asuma over the next minutes. Finally Asuma managed to disarm Naruto and crossed his blades close over his throat. I win. Asuma said and stepped back. Naruto nodded. He hadn't expected to be able to defeat an elite Jonin in one of his strongest disciplines, but he had held out better than he thought he would. That was an impressive start. Next would be Taijutsu. The Hokage said. Asuma nodded and put his knives back in his hip pouch. He took his stance and saw that the boy was in a stance he didn't know and hadn't seen around the village before. He couldn't know that Naruto was in the opening stance of the Namikaze style, the cheetah style. The style was based on speed and fast attacks to vital points. It wasn't made for long exchanges like the animal it was named after. After Naruto had read all the anatomy scrolls in the secret room, he could utilize the style really well. And with his bastardized version of gentle fist and chakra scalpels mixed into the style it was deadly if Naruto wanted it to be. This time Asuma attacked first, but Naruto dodged his kick and went around him in a split second and tried to attack the spine. Asuma though was too experienced and jumped to the side. Naruto followed him and looked for openings in Asuma's guard. His smaller stature now was an advantage for him as he could use openings easier as a bigger opponent. He brought in some painful hits to Asuma's biceps and upper thigh. Asuma was too good to let him hit vital spots after feeling what a hit did to his muscles. Naruto didn't let Asuma rest and used his superior speed to disable more points, which got more difficult as Asuma tried to stay out of his reach. Finally Naruto managed to cut a whole muscle in Asuma's left leg, which made him fall to his knees. Naruto came up and pointed his glowing hand to Asuma's spine. I win. He said and then stepped back. The Hokage was impressed. That was an impressive show of Taijutsu skill. And that speed reminded him a lot of Minato. But Naruto seemed even better than his father at the same age. And how did he manage to get Asuma's muscles hurt? That looked like gentle fist, but Naruto couldn't know it. The Hyuga kept those secrets within their clan. Very good, Dark Phoenix. The next thing would be Jinjutsu. The Hokage said. Wouldn't it have been better to let Kurenai test him there? I am not much of a Jinjutsu user. Asuma said. Urata had appeared at Asuma's side and began healing his injuries. When he walked to Naruto he shook his head. I'm okay. He said and the medic went to the side. I don't think we would need a Jinjutsu specialist. I don't want news about Dark Phoenix getting out too soon. Urata here is one of my personal medics and won't tell a thing. I only need to know how good he is at casting them and at dispelling a few lower level ones. I know you can do a B rank Jinjutsu. Asuma nodded. That B rank Jinjutsu was his highest level Jinjutsu. It only worked if he got his opponent by surprise. But if his father only wanted to test if Dark Phoenix could break it, it would do. Naruto got ready. Okay, we will start with you starting to cast a Jinjutsu at Asuma, Dark Phoenix. The Hokage said. Naruto nodded and went through hand seals at a fast pace. Illusion art. Pervert's paradise. He said. The Hokage waited for Asuma to get out of the Jinjutsu, but instead he saw that Asuma had started to drool and only looked strangely happy. Then he sported a huge nosebleed and fell back, knocked out. What kind of jutsu was that? The Hokage asked Naruto, whom he swore was grinning brightly under his mask. The Jinjutsu shows him the woman he likes offering him to do whatever sexual fetish he has. It works on nearly everybody. Naruto said innocently. How the hell did you come up with that jutsu? The Hokage asked baffled. Well, the same way I came up with that ninjutsu. Naruto said, stressing that ninjutsu. The Hokage, knowing which one he meant, had to suppress a nosebleed himself. It was meant to be a distraction in case I was running away from others. And it isn't limited to men. It works with the general preferences of the one I catch in it. Naruto explained. I am impressed. Can you please wake up Asuma again so we can continue? The Hokage asked Arata. The medic nodded and pushed his chakra into Asuma's system to break him out of the Jinjutsu. Asuma opened his eyes and saw his father, Arata, and Dark Phoenix looking at him amused. That jutsu is really dangerous. You simply don't want to get out of it. Asuma commented, groaning. Now he was glad that Kurenai wasn't here. She would never forgive him. Thankfully nobody knew what his illusion had been. That would be a definite death sentence for him. Okay, let's get this over with. Let's see if you are as good as escaping from a Jinjutsu. Asuma said and went through his hand seals. Illusion art. Prison of silence. Asuma said. Naruto just stood there and wondered what the jutsu was supposed to do. When should the jutsu start to work, Asuma? He asked. It should already do it, can you hear me? Asuma asked. Yes, no problem. So I guess it should have messed up my hearing. Naruto guessed. Yes, it should. That's strange. It should have worked. I cast it correctly, I'm sure. Asuma wondered. Try another one, Asuma. The Hokage said. Illusion art. Hell viewing technique. Asuma announced, but Naruto still stood there wondering why nothing happened. Nothing? The Hokage asked. No. I know what the hell viewing technique should do, as I also know that jutsu, but I don't feel anything. Strange, I didn't even feel any foreign chakra reaching me. Naruto said. You can feel foreign chakra? Arata asked, interested. Yes, I'm a sensor type. Naruto said. That could be a reason. Let me test something. Arata said and activated his mystical palm jutsu. I will come closer with my hands to that cut you got in the weapons fight with Asuma. If I am right, something should stop me. Arata said. Naruto nodded and held out his arm. It was already healed by the Kyuubi, but he wouldn't inform Arata of that fact. In case he wondered, he could make up a minor bloodline for healing. Arata pushed his hands over the cut in Naruto's shirt and was stopped an invisible layer of chakra. I thought so. Young sensors sometimes place a thin layer of chakra over all of their skin to have it easier to use their sensor skills. It's a subconscious thing. That layer of chakra prevents foreign chakra like for Jinjutsus to enter the body. Therefore they are immune against lower level Jinjutsus. I guess a Jinjutsu specialist would still manage to get through, but nobody else. Arata explained. I never heard of something like that. The Hokage said. It's not very common. Perhaps 1 in 100 sensor types does it. Mostly if they teach themselves some of their skills. If they have an experienced sensor to teach them, it normally doesn't happen. Tsunade-sama found this anomaly during the Second Shinobi World War because one on her team had that immunity to Jinjutsu and she wanted to know if it was possible to teach it to others. Arata said. Okay, this is good to know. Well, I guess we will have to postpone the Jinjutsu test as it is not possible for us right now to test if Dark Phoenix can break Jinjutsu. Perhaps when it becomes more pressing I will let Kurenai test him. Just to satisfy my curiosity. What is your strongest Jinjutsu? He asked Naruto. Illusion art. Infinite darkness. Naruto answered. Isn't that a jutsu of the Nidaime Hokage? Arata asked. It is. We will have to talk about how you learned that jutsu, Dark Phoenix. For now, I think it is time to examine your ninjutsu. I would like to have a presentation of 5 of your strongest jutsu to see what you can do, and then you will fight against Asuma. The Hokage ordered. Can I have an oath that nobody talks about those ninjutsu? I trust you that you chose trustworthy people to watch this test, but 2 of my jutsus will tell them exactly just who I am. Naruto said. The Hokage was surprised at that request. Could Naruto know his father's most prized techniques? Okay. Arata, Asuma, if I am right about which jutsus Dark Phoenix intends to show us, that oath will be necessary. I make it an S-rank secret to keep quiet about them until I give you permission to talk about them. Understood. Both said. Naruto nodded and took out a tri-pronged kunai from his pouch on his back. He threw it at the training post and vanished in a flash of yellow, reappearing at the kunai and showing a blue spiraling orb into the training post. Rasengan. He said and showed the ball through the wood as if it was butter. Beyond Aim's jutsus. Arata said shocked. Flying Thunder God and Rasengan. Asuma gave a very good impression of a goldfish. He never had even suspected that the Yondaime could have had a son. That seemed to be the only plausible explanation for this boy to know those jutsus. Naruto flashed back to his original position and went through a series of hand seals. Water release. Water dragon bullet. He said and manipulated water from the river into a water dragon that hit the training post which already had a hole from the Rasengan. The post was blown away from the powerful jutsu. Naruto waited until the water had settled down and went through his next series of hand seals. Wind release. Twister's fury. He shouted and made 3 tornadoes that blew towards the river and sucked up the water, making them even more dangerous. Then Naruto made his last hand seal. Shadow clone jutsu. He said and created 50 shadow clones. Shit. Was Asuma's only comment. The Hokage was very impressed. He wouldn't have thought that Naruto had that kind of strong ninjutsus in his repertoire. He would be a force to be reckoned with in the future. This only made it more imperative to keep the boy in the village. He needed to choose a good Jonin sensei with whom the boy could bond. It was only one real option there. While Naruto would only stay a genin for 6 months with skills like his, those months needed to be used to start positive bonds to the village. He couldn't take care of that through his teammates, he would be paired with Sasuke Uchiha. Naruto had said himself he had intended to do that to make sure the team passed, and Sakura Haruno. He hoped it would be okay, but perhaps he should ask Naruto about his opinion about Sakura first. He didn't want to anger him even more than he already was. The following fight with Asuma showed that Naruto had a wide range of ninjutsu he could use. Especially his use of replacement and body flicker was fantastic. Asuma didn't manage to get a hit in as Naruto changed places so fast. Together with his speed he could honestly say Naruto was high Jonin level in ninjutsu. He knew how to do the jutsus and when to use them in a fight. Finally he gave both the signal to stop. Damn it. To have to work like that against a kid his age, I really should start training more. Asuma commented. He had been spammed with clones and tricked by transformations. Mixed with the constantly moving Naruto and his higher level elemental jutsus, it was damn hard to get the kid. If he would use his other skills, Asuma didn't doubt he would be able to go up with Jonin in a few months of real missions. He had noticed that while the kid was good, he made mistakes that someone who had been on 100 missions or so wouldn't make. This meant this kid was a rookie. His opinion rose even more after that revelation. Let him do a few C rank and B rank missions, and he will be ready to become Jonin. There were a few rookie mistakes that you only get corrected through experience. You should for example not wait to see if your jutsu really hit an opponent and neglect your surroundings. Your sensor ability helped you out there, but you should have been more on guard in those situations. Asuma told Naruto, who nodded. I will remember it next time, Asuma. He replied. Okay, the next part is Arata's specialty. I would like a bit more about your knowledge in poisons. The Hokage said. Naruto nodded and went over to Arata. Meanwhile Asuma talked to his father. He is really good. How did you train him and where? I wouldn't have thought you could hide the Yondaime's son for 12 years. Asuma asked. Well, even I don't know how he trained. I didn't know he was this strong before he told me some days ago when he brought back the forbidden scroll that Mizuki had stolen. The Hokage answered. You want to tell me that kid learned all that on his own? Where would he get the jutsus? Asuma asked. And why didn't you teach him? I would have thought he would have got special training regarding his father's enemies. I wanted to, but the political situation after the Kyuubi attack was extremely shaky. We had to fear that Iwakuma would use our weakness to kill him if they knew who he was. So I hid him away. I couldn't have the villagers talk about him even existing. If he had got special training, people would have asked why. And I didn't want to let Danzo or one of the other idiots know about him. The civilians would have pestered me with the craw nonsense, even if he doesn't have a bloodline limit, made marriage proposals for their daughters to get more power, and similar things would have happened through the ninja clans that would have fought to raise him to increase their power. The Hokage explained. That makes sense. But it is fishy that he could get this strong on his own with nobody noticing. Asuma admitted. Indeed. I will have a long talk with him how he managed it, but I guess he will keep a lot secret. There are certain reasons he informed me about his skills a few days ago, but they are classified. Now let's see what Arata says about his knowledge about poisons. And then I will ask him to show us some of his seals. He said he was a seal master, so I am curious what he can do. Asuma just nodded. Okay, I think that will do for now, Dark Phoenix. You have a very good foundation in your knowledge. If you continue your studies there, you should reach proficiency in a year or so. Arata said. So what is your verdict? The Hokage asked. He has good knowledge about poisonous plants and animals from which he gets his ingredients for the poisons he uses. His techniques to mix those poisons are good. But his knowledge is limited to paralyzing and lethal poisons. If he wants to go further in the area he needs to branch out. I estimate he is a solid high chunin level in his skills here. For his age that is still impressive. I don't know many ninjas that are all-rounders like he is. He should be able to take B rank missions without too much problem and an experienced team as support. Arata said. The Hokage nodded. There was no way he would let Naruto take A rank missions in the near future, even if he was skilled. But his team would need to be trained properly so they could send them on C ranks after a short time. Okay, then if I didn't miss anything only Fuinjutsu is left. The Hokage said. Naruto nodded enthusiastically. He loved Fuinjutsu. He took out some seals he had brought with him to show the Hokage. Okay, these are some of the seals I prepared to show you, Hokage-sama. I think they are some of the most useful in the field. This is a modified explosive seal. It first sends a chakra wave out that imitates killing intent, then the explosion goes off. The intention is to briefly paralyze an opponent with a kai to keep them within the range of the seal. The next one is a combination of a storage seal and an explosive seal. The weapons stored in the storage part are shot out by the explosive part and can surprise an opponent who doesn't expect to have to dodge weapons. The seal can be prepared in two ways. First, you trigger it with your own chakra from a certain distance, or second you involve a perimeter seal that reacts to foreign chakra. It has a range about 20 meters. He then took out another type of seal. This is a modified chakra storage seal. You can store chakra of a certain type, like water or fire chakra in here, and release it when you need it. You would only have to meld the chakra into a jutsu after that. You mean, with those seals ninja could use jutsus of an element they normally can't use? Asuma asked. Yes. Of course they would need to know the hand seals for the jutsu and meld the chakra, but the elemental manipulation would be taken care of. Naruto said. Fantastic. That would make fights much easier. You would be able to prevent being caught at a total disadvantage. With my element wind and knowledge and fire jutsus, I would have problems with water types. If I had some earth seals I could take care of that problem. Asuma mused. But how do you load them? Don't you need the elemental chakra first to charge them? That was a problem in the beginning until I came up with chakra converter seals. I am a primary wind type with a secondary water affinity. So I would be hard pressed against earth techniques if I didn't recognize the jutsu first, which still takes some time for me. I wanted to have a way to use lightning jutsus. So I worked on a seal that would change my wind chakra to lightning chakra. Took me some time to develop it, but after 3 months I had it. And I found out that by using the seals regularly I developed a lightning affinity as my third affinity. I think it is comparable with the Sharingan training a user to use jutsus of all kinds as it can copy them. Naruto reported proudly. Are you going to sell some of your seals? Asuma asked. Perhaps, I'm not sure yet. Naruto said. He had thought about making money through selling his seals, but who would buy them if they knew he made them? And he didn't know how it would work through a proxy. Perhaps the Hokage could help him there. Okay, I see you really know your seals. To see how good you are overall we would have to wait for Jiraiya to return from his travels. He's out of the village most of the time maintaining his spy network. The Hokage said. Naruto nodded. He knew that Jiraiya of the Sannin had been his dad's Jonin sensei and was a seal master, the only one the village had at the moment besides himself, and he needed to be evaluated to be acknowledged first. I think we are done here. Dark Phoenix, I want to see you in my office in 2 hours. Harada, thanks for your help, you're dismissed. Asuma, please come to my office in 4 hours, we will then finalize the new genin teams with the other Jonin senseis. Okay. Asuma said and Harada bowed. Genin teams. 4 hours after the test the Hokage and the 9 Jonins that would take a team this year, even Kakashi had come on time after the Hokage had threatened his Icha books. Good, now that we are all here, we will go over the teams that will be announced to the new genin next Monday. The Hokage then proceeded to read the teams to the Jonin. I would like for Genma to take Team 1, Aoba, you get Team 2, Inoichi, you get Team 3, Choma, you have Team 4. Isuna, Team 5, Makiko, you have Team 6. Now, Kakashi gets Team 7, Kurenai, you have Team 8, and Asuma gets Team 10. The Hokage informed them. They nodded. If you have any questions about your team, ask Haruka Yamino, he taught the class over the last 2 years. All except Kakashi are dismissed. The Hokage said. The Jonin left the office after bowing. What did you want to talk about with me, Hokage-sama? Kakashi asked. You have the most important team of the whole year this time, Kakashi. I know that the council will force you to pass the team for Sasuke Uchiha, but I don't want you to play favorites. This is a matter of village security. The Hokage said while activating the privacy seals in the room. Anbu, please wait outside while I brief Kakashi. He ordered. The 4 hidden Anbu left the room. This seems to be really important, Hokage-sama. Kakashi analyzed. It is. Do you know who Naruto Uzumaki really is? The Hokage asked. Yes, he is Naruto Namikaze, Minato-sensei's son. Kakashi answered nodding, his eye looking dead serious now. Correct. I suspected you knew. 2 days ago I found out that Naruto knows about his parents and the fox. He is no genin, he should have normally already been jonin by now. But with the sabotage and hatred the civilian council shows him, he hid it. I had Asuma test Naruto today in a disguise. The boy is a prodigy. He is jonin level in ninjutsu, fuinjutsu, weapons and taijutsu. We don't really know his level in genjutsu as he is immune to lower level ones because he is a sensor and has his body covered in a chakra layer that blocks invading chakra. A medic informed me that sometimes happens with self-taught sensors. Obviously Tsunade found out about that phenomenon. He knows basics of poisons and is really smart. The problem is that thanks to the idiots on the council, Naruto has next to no real connection with the village. He sees me as trustworthy and likes me, but I think the only other ones that could be said about are the Ichirokas. Nobody else in the entire village. Naruto confessed that he would have run away long ago if he had had a chance. Now I know I am old. If I die and Naruto doesn't get new bonds, he will run. I give him a year at most to be able to not be caught by the Anbu anymore if they were sent to get him back. He won't let the council screw him anymore. And Naruto has inherited both his parents' talent. He is the heir of the Uzumaki, Namikaze and Senju clans. And he is more talented than even Itachi was. I don't have to tell you that we can't let him go somewhere else. I want you to train your team properly, Kakashi. No being late more than half an hour. Naruto hates his teammates but will accept them until he can take the chunin exams in 6 months. So the only person he would willingly connect to if he is treated properly are you, his jonin sensei. Naruto is important for the future of the village. If he leaves, the most probable destination he could go to is Kumo. They treat their Jinchuriki properly now. I don't have to tell you that it would be a catastrophe for Konoha if Kumo got Naruto in their ranks. He knows both Rasengan and the Flying Thunder God Jutsu of his father. He is probably a Fuinjutsu master and his ninjutsu is impressive. He has a wind affinity with a secondary water affinity and a developed lightning affinity from him developing a chakra converter seal that turned his wind chakra and lighting chakra and then training lightning jutsus. Both his normal affinities are trained. I don't know how he managed to hide his training, he was only willing to tell me he found a secret place where he lives now and trains. He also found scrolls and other things there. You have the next 6 months to get Naruto a new bond to the village. If you can, more than that. Make sure nobody screws him over on missions in the village and get the other 2 ready for C-rank missions ASAP. Sasuke shouldn't be a problem. The boy wants to get stronger and you should be able to break him out of his superiority ideas. I think the bigger problem will be Sakura. The girl didn't get good marks on her physical exams. The reason she became top Kunoichi is that the written test was a big part of the exams and that she has perfect chakra control due to her small reserves. If you have to, break her, but Team 7 has to get strong soon. The Hokage impressed the importance on Kakashi. Kakashi was really surprised. He hadn't known that Naruto was that strong, but he could understand that he had a strong dislike for the villagers. He had saved him more than once from mobs when Naruto was younger. I understand, Hokage-sama. I will think of something to teach Naruto to keep him interested. I can also tell him more about his parents if he wants to. Do you know if he can use Kyuubi's chakra? Kakashi asked. No, he can't. But he can suppress it really well so far. He thinks that if he is strong enough on his own he doesn't have to rely on the dangerous chakra of the fox. He knows that he can't trust the fox. He had met it after he found out that he was the Jinchuriki for Kyuubi, but other than trying to get Naruto to let him out, he didn't try anything so far. And Naruto is too smart to not know that if he lets the fox out, he will lose himself. The Hokage explained. Good. Because I wouldn't know how to teach him that. I will make sure Naruto will start to be better connected with some of his peers. I think I could get at least Asuma to arrange team sparring sessions if his team passes, which I think they will. I haven't seen any version of an Ino Shikacho team that failed the Genin exams. Perhaps Kurenai would also do it. Her team looks like they could pass too. Kakashi said. I trust you, Kakashi. We have 6 months until Naruto makes Chunin. By the way, get back to your old level in Anbu and if possible surpass it. At the moment you are my only real option as a successor. The only others would be Jiraiya and Tsunade and I can't imagine that Tsunade would come back to the village and I fear what Jiraiya would do as Hokage. And if neither of you take the hat it will probably go to Danzo. I understand, Hokage-sama. Kakashi said. Good, you are dismissed, Kakashi. The Hokage said. Kakashi left the office. The day of the team placements was there and Naruto for the first time wore his new outfit. He had long black pants that were taped with dark red bandages. He wore a dark red mesh shirt under a dark gray shirt with 3/4 sleeves and a hood. He wore a dark red belt with 2 pouches on his back. On both of his thighs were pouches for shuriken and senbon that were strapped over black bandages. Over the shirt he wore a dark red vest with pockets specially made to store scrolls and small containers for different things. Naruto kept his poisons there. He had dark red gloves with metal plates on the back in which he had sealed his tanto and his bow staff. The hood of his shirt hung over his vest on his back. He would only put it on for missions where his bright hair would be a hindrance. He looked in the mirror and was happy with how he looked now. He finally looked like a real shinobi. He turned off the lights of his home and walked up the stairs. He made sure that he was alone in the alley and then left through the hidden entrance. Once the wall was back in position, he jumped up on the roof and went to the academy. He reached the classroom and took a seat in the back. Only two others were there. Hinata Hyuga and Shino Aburam. Shino gave him a short nod and Hinata turned red again when he smiled at her. Naruto didn't really understand why she always turned red, but as she was never mean like the other students, he liked her. Shino just shook his head, seeing the display of Naruto and Hinata. Naruto was really dense sometimes. He knew Naruto wasn't as bad and stupid as he supposedly was. His allies had told him that Naruto had excellent chakra control and intentionally messed up things. He had observed Naruto after finding out that and came to the conclusion that Naruto wanted to stay at the bottom of the class for some reason. He didn't know his reason, but he respected Naruto's privacy. Hinata was really hard-pressed to not faint when Naruto walked into the class. She had been really happy when he had passed his exams. Many had thought he would fail them. Now he wore some new clothes and he looked really good in them. He obviously had hidden his muscular body under the old bulky orange jumpsuit. His new clothes sat tighter on his upper body and didn't leave much to imagination. How could a 12-year-old boy look that good? Now the other students began filling the room. Some were surprised to see Naruto in a new outfit, but most of them ignored him. Though some girls gave him appreciative looks. Then the daily stampede occurred. Sakura and Ino raced each other to the classroom to decide who would be allowed to sit next to Sasuke. Stupid really. They were kunoichi now, they should act like it. Once they had entered the room they fought who had won. Naruto had enough. He had watched that embarrassment of kunoichis too long. He quickly threw a senbon at each of them and hit both their thighs. They looked shocked, then they had problems moving. What the? Ino asked, then she couldn't move her lips anymore. Finally they are quiet. Naruto mumbled. Only Shino and Hinata had noticed that he had thrown the senbons at Ino and Sakura and were impressed with his accuracy and the obviously paralyzing agent on the senbons. When Iruka came into the class, Ino and Sakura were still paralyzed. Naruto mentally counted down for the poison he used to lose its effect. It should only hold for 30 more seconds. It was only meant to paralyze for 5 minutes. More than enough time in a one-on-one fight to take out your opponent. What happened here? Iruka asked. Well, Ino and Sakura fought who would sit next to Sasuke, then they were hit with a senbon each and were paralyzed. A girl informed Iruka. Who did this? Iruka asked. Naruto raised his hand. Don't worry, the effect only lasts for 5 minutes, Iruka-sensei. They should be back to normal in 3, 2, 1, now. Naruto said. True to Naruto's words, Ino and Sakura stumbled when their muscles reacted again. In 2 minutes they are back to normal. Naruto said disinterestedly. Why did you do that, Naruto? Iruka asked sternly. They were too loud and an embarrassment for every kunoichi that takes her profession serious. I just wanted to show them what can happen if they don't keep an eye on their environment. They didn't even think to pull out the senbons as soon as they hit them. That would have shortened the time the poison worked. Naruto said without remorse. The whole class looked shocked. Naruto had never behaved like this. He had always been a goofball. Not this serious. The most surprised was Iruka, who started to have doubts about their assessment of Naruto's skills. Over the years he had lost his hatred for Naruto. He had understood that Naruto wasn't the fox and never treated him worse than his other students. He even admired how the boy persevered despite the hatred of the villagers. Nonetheless, it's wrong to attack your comrades. Iruka said. That wasn't an attack, that was a rescue mission for the ears of those that have sensitive hearing and easily get headaches. If I would have wanted to attack them, they would be dead now. Naruto countered. I would just have had to use a deadly poison instead of a paralyzing one or aimed at a vital point. With their reaction times they would be dead before help would have arrived. Iruka couldn't say anything against that. Naruto was right. He could have easily killed them. He wondered why the boy had changed so dramatically. Well, sit down, Ino and Sakura, we will start with the team placements. Iruka said. Grumbling, the two girls took seats, ironically on both sides of Sasuke. Iruka gave his class a speech how proud he was of them for graduating and how the real life of ninjas now waited for them. He told them to do their best and then proceeded to read out the teams. Team 7, Naruto Uzumaki, Sakura Haruno. With that, Sakura's head crashed onto the table and Ino mocked her and Sasuke cheered. Sakura cheered. Take that, Ino pig. True love conquers all. She shouted loudly only to be hit with a senbon again. This time in her shoulder. She turned around to shout at Naruto only to be paralyzed again. Don't worry, that will take 5 minutes to wear off again. You can continue, Iruka-sensei. Naruto said, shaking his head at Sakura's idiocy. He had told her to first take out the senbon. Iruka just shook his head and wondered about the display of accuracy from Naruto. That point was where normally a vein was. Did he know anatomy that well? He hadn't shown anything like that before. Team 8, Hinata Hyuga, Kiba Inuzuka and Shino Aburam. Iruka said and the three looked at each other. Team 9 is still active, so Team 10 are Shikamaru Nara, Choji Akimichi and Ino Yamanaka. What? Why do I get the lazy ass and the one who only eats when forehead girl gets to be on Sasuke's team? She ranted, only to be hit with another senbon into her hip. She grabbed a senbon and pulled it out and turned angrily to Naruto. But she couldn't even start a rant because she was paralyzed. Better. 3 minutes, at least she remembered to take out the senbon quickly. Naruto commented. Naruto, please refrain from paralyzing your comrades. Iruka admonished him. Why should I? And I only use the term comrades very loosely with most of the class. Naruto said. You don't honestly expect me to treat them any different than they did me all those years. If you did, forget it. I have had it with the shit. Naruto stated. Iruka was worried. Naruto clearly bore a strong dislike for most of the class. It was understandable, but why did he show it now? Was the fox taking over? What could a dead last like you do to us? The son of a shop owner that always kicked Naruto out asked. Naruto answered by vanishing from his seat and holding a kunai to the boy's throat. Don't underestimate me. You know nothing about me. I dare you to live one day of my life. You will want to kill yourself. You are not even close to strong enough to get through. Naruto said in a low voice. Naruto, that's enough. Iruka shouted. He asked for it. Naruto answered and vanished again to return to his seat. In his seat Sasuke was seething. How could the dead last have those abilities? Only he and Uchiha should have them. He was the rookie of the year. Normally Sakura would have yelled at Naruto to stop trying to be cool, but she couldn't, the poison still worked. Then Ino's paralysis stopped. She first wanted to yell at him, but thought better of it and sat down. Twice having been hit with senbons and being paralyzed was enough. And Naruto would obviously do it again if he felt they were too loud. Half an hour after the other teams had been taken by their Jonin sensei's team, 7 still sat in the classroom. Sasuke was busy glaring at Naruto, Sakura was mooning over Sasuke, and Naruto was drawing in a notebook. He was working on a new seal, and everything was better than having to deal with his so-called teammates. Then the door opened and a silver-haired man with gravity-defying hair came in. Naruto looked up. He recognized the man. He was the Jonin he had copied the shadow clone jutsu from. He was Kakashi Haddock, one of the best Jonin in the village. His dad's old student. It seemed like the Hokage had kept his word and given him a sensei who wouldn't hate him for the fox. Kakashi had to know about sealing, and perhaps he even knew that he was the Yondame's son. My first impression, you are boring. Meet me at the roof in 5 minutes. He said and disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Sasuke and Sakura stood up and walked out of the room. Naruto waited a moment and then followed. If there were traps on the way, the two idiots would trigger them. He would stay alert. It was always better to be on guard and over the years it had become second nature to him. He heard cursing in front of him. Obviously Kakashi's lateness had had a reason. True to his suspicions, Sakura was trapped in a sling of ninja wire around her feet and dangling from the ceiling. Sasuke was pinned to the wall with 2 shuriken through his sleeves. You really should listen better. I told you to always be on guard. There were only a few reasons our sensei would be late and preparing a small test with traps was one of them. He said. He threw kunai at the wire that held Sakura in the air and made her fall to the ground. Get the bastard freed and follow me. He said and walked on. On the way he lazily disabled 2 more traps. Then they reached the door to the roof. Naruto carefully checked for more traps on the door and found none. He opened it a little bit, only for Sakura shoving him out of the way being impatient. She shouted they would be late. Naruto threw himself down when he felt projectiles coming at them. Sasuke, who had seen that there would be traps to expect, followed Naruto's example. Both avoided being hit. Naruto rolled out of the line of fire and was ready to defend himself in case of an attack. He saw that Sakura was pierced by 5 senbons and whining. Sasuke behind him was also ready for another attack. Well, my second impression is, we need to work on your speed in disabling or avoiding traps. You're late. You needed 6.5 minutes to get here. But I have to acknowledge that you at least got here as a team. Even if the girl shouldn't have got that impatient. Better being late than dead. If I was an enemy I could have killed you easily. Which leads us to my next question, what was your first mistake? Kakashi asked, looking sternly at them. Taking the route you expected us to take. We could have avoided this by using another route. The best way would have been if we had used chakra to stick to the wall and climbed up here. But as 2 of us don't know this exercise and we are supposed to be a team we had to take the only other route. Naruto said. Correct. That exercise will be one of the first things you will learn during your time as genin. That is if you manage to become genin. Kakashi said, I smiling. What do you mean, if we manage to become genin? We graduated, so we are genin. Sakura said. No, not yet, but I will tell you about that later. Sit down. Kakashi instructed them. He pointed at 3 benches in front of him. The 3 sat down with Naruto checking the underside of his bench for traps, but not finding any. Kakashi nodded appreciatively at Naruto's action. For now I want you to give me a short introduction of yourselves. Name, age, likes, dislikes, hobbies and dreams. Pinky, you start. Kakashi ordered. Sakura looked confused. How should we do that, sensei? Couldn't you start to give an example? She asked. What does shinobi rule number 3 say? Blackie. Kakashi said, ignoring Sakura's question. A ninja has to always follow a direct order of his superior. Sasuke answered. Correct. Kakashi answered. Sasuke was impressed with this jonin. He clearly knew what he did and had a no-nonsense attitude. Perhaps this would work out well. He would see how strong he was. So, Pinky, I gave you a direct order and I expect you to follow my orders or you should just quit being a ninja. Sakura nodded, intimidated by Kakashi. Yes, sensei. My name is Sakura Haruno. I am 12 years old. The thing I like, more the person I like is. She looked at Sasuke and blushed. My hobby is. She again looked at Sasuke and blushed harder and giggled. My dream is. She looked at Sasuke and squealed. Your dislike? Kakashi asked, annoyed. He just had to get a fangirl. Be no pig in Naruto. She shouted. We will have to work on your attitude. Shinobi rule number 25, Blondie. A ninja never shows his emotions. Naruto recited calmly. Correct. Kakashi said. Sasuke was surprised. He didn't think Naruto had paid attention in class. And then his new skills. Why was Naruto so different than before? He would find it out. Sakura huffed. She had the right to show her love to Sasuke. Okay, next is Blackie. Kakashi said. Sasuke obviously disliked the nickname but kept quiet. Sasuke Uchiha, 12 years old. I like nothing in particular and have many things I dislike. My hobby is training. I don't have a dream, more of an ambition. I will resurrect the Uchiha clan and I will kill a certain somebody. He stated. Sakura had hearts in her eyes, thinking Sasuke was so cool. Naruto rolled his eyes. The emo had no reason to be all egoistical and full of hate. He was treated like a pampered prince in the village. Kakashi had expected something like that. Okay, next Blondie. Kakashi continued. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, I am 12 years old. I like the old man and Ichirakus. I dislike most of the villagers, especially those that can't distinguish a scroll and a kunai. My hobby is training and gardening. My dream is to become the strongest ninja ever and show this village just how much they screwed up. Naruto said. He really is different from what his files said, but Hokage-sama warned me. If we don't get him out of the darkness, he could become a problem for the village. Not that I can blame him. Kakashi thought. Okay, my name is Kakashi Haddock, I'm 26 years old. My likes and dislikes are none of your concern for now. I have many hobbies and my dream, I never really thought about it. He told them. The only thing we found out was his name and his age. Sasuke and Sakura thought. I know that voice from somewhere. Naruto thought, trying to place the voice of his sensei. Now that introductions are over, I will come to the part that you aren't genin yet. There is a rule in the village that all genin have to be confirmed by their respective jonin senseis. Each sensei gives his team a test. And from the 27 genin that passed the graduation exams in your year, only 9 will be accepted as genin. That means this test has a probability of failure of 67%. Kakashi pointed out. What? But what was the meaning of the exams then? Sakura protested. There was no way in hell she would give up being on the same team as Sasuke. That was to weed out the hopeless cases. The only one that has a say if you become genin or not, am I, Kakashi said, giving an imposing figure with his arms stemmed at his sides and looking down at them. Naruto's memory finally connected the voice and the pose. Dog? He questioned mentally. Dog had been an Anbu that had often protected him when he was younger. Naruto really hoped his sensei was his old Anbu guard. He had really liked Dog, especially as the man had often given him some sweets to help him over the shock after attacks. Kakashi handed them a piece of paper with information. The test will be tomorrow morning at 7 at Training Ground 3. Bring all your equipment. Oh, and you better don't eat breakfast or you will just throw up. Kakashi informed them. Then Kakashi disappeared in a cloud of smoke again. Sasuke stood up and walked away, Sakura closely behind him to try and get a date with him. Naruto wondered how long it would take for her to be killed on a mission like that. He decided preparation was necessary and used the body flicker to get to Training Ground 3. He spent 3 hours inspecting the training ground to be prepared for the next day. He didn't know if his so-called teammates would remember the lesson about knowing the terrain before a fight, but he did know that they wouldn't listen if he told them about it. Naruto then went into the woods to a river where he knew tasty fish could be caught. He caught 3 fishes for his dinner, went to his field to get some fresh vegetables, and then went to prepare his food. A small campfire and an hour of cooking later, he had grilled fish and roasted vegetables. He ate and then extinguished the fire. On his way home he took to the roofs to avoid the glares from the villagers. He also didn't want to be found by messengers of the council. They would surely bitch about his behavior in class. Well, let them bitch. He was a ninja under the command of the Hokage, they had no power over him. Kakashi had observed Naruto after the meeting was over. He was positively surprised that he went to the training ground where the test would be to get an idea which environment he would have to work with. After that he caught himself some fish and disappeared somewhere else. Kakashi let him go. It wouldn't be good if Naruto thought he followed him. He needed to gain Naruto's trust to help him. From his estimation the team meeting had gone well enough. Naruto was good and knew how to act as a ninja. Sasuke needed to get over his complexes. The best way to get there would be to practically isolate him from the village until the chunin exams. So he would have to carefully choose the D-rank missions his team did. No missions inside the village where the villagers could show their bias against Naruto and toward Sasuke. But at least Sasuke had the necessary skill to be a ninja. Attitudes could be corrected over time. Getting skills that should have been taught in the academy to an appropriate level was harder. Sakura would have to go through hell. She didn't consider her surroundings, she was loud, had a superiority complex towards Naruto and was a fangirl. Really bad combination. He would see her skills in a battle situation tomorrow. But he didn't expect much. Bell test. The next morning saw Sasuke and Sakura waiting for their sensei with empty stomachs. Naruto sat a bit away from his team, dozing under a tree with a full stomach. He knew that if you had the chance, you always ate before you had to fight to have enough energy to last through the fight. And if you didn't have much time, that's what energy bars had been made for. Being a ninja took energy, so following Kakashi-sensei's suggestion or not seemed to be another test. They had to wait for 2 hours until Kakashi came. Now Naruto was doubly glad he had ignored the advice. Sasuke and Sakura were obviously really hungry now. "Good morning, team." Kakashi greeted. "You're late." Sakura screeched. "You see, on my way here I saw an old lady that had to carry a heavy bag with her groceries, so I had to help her and carry her things home." Kakashi said. "Liar." Sakura shouted. Naruto just shook his head. She let him rile her up even before the test started. Not a good way to show your skill. But then again, she didn't have real skill. "Well, you know why you are here. Your genin test. To pass this test you have to get these 2 bells from me." Kakashi explained, showing them 2 little silver bells, which were chiming in his hands. "But, Kakashi-sensei, there are only 2 bells for the 3 of us." Sakura said. "Correct. That means one of you won't get a bell. The one that doesn't get a bell will be tied to the post and I will eat lunch before his eyes." Kakashi said. 2 stomachs grumbled. Kakashi looked at Naruto. "You seem to have eaten breakfast, Naruto, care to tell your teammates why?" Kakashi asked. "Yes, you idiot. Didn't Sasuke tell us yesterday that ninjas have to follow their superiors' orders?" Sakura yelled at him. "A ninja needs to detect hidden meanings and tests. You only said we better not eat because we would only throw up. That isn't an order the way you worded it. It's more a bit of advice. But against a jonin like you we would never have a decent chance to pass any test if we didn't eat. Therefore I didn't take your advice." Naruto calmly said. "A ninja has to be able to decide which information is relevant for his mission and which is not." "That is correct, Naruto, it wasn't an order." "How would you have solved the problem if I had ordered not to eat before coming here?" Kakashi asked. "I would have brought an energy bar to eat once I am here." Naruto answered. Kakashi nodded appreciatively. That was the way a ninja should think. Good thinking, Naruto. You should all think how you can interpret orders so you get the best possible result for you and your team. Orders are not always set in stone, they allow us flexibility to fulfill our missions, otherwise there would be no need for ninjas to think and each mission can be compromised by bad information. That is one lesson you should always remember. A ninja needs to see underneath the underneath. Never take things at face value." Kakashi lectured. Sasuke nodded. It made sense to him. He should have expected another test after the traps yesterday. He would be better prepared in the future. And obviously he needed to newly evaluate Naruto. He was in no way as stupid as he had seemed in the academy. Perhaps he wouldn't be only dead weight slowing him down. But first he needed to see how strong Naruto was to accept him as a teammate. Additionally to not getting to eat, the ones who don't get a bell will be sent back to the academy for retraining. Kakashi announced. This shocked Sasuke and Sakura. Going back to the academy? Naruto stayed calm. He had expected something like that. He would see what he could deduct once he wasn't under Kakashi's scrutiny. Then Kakashi took out an alarm clock, which brought a tick mark on Sakura's forehead. You have until noon to get the bells. You can use all your equipment. If you really want to get a bell, you will have to come at me with the intent to kill. Kakashi said. But, Kakashi-sensei, you could be hurt if we did that. Sakura stated. As if. Naruto thought. Don't worry about me. Ready, set, go. He said and the three jumped away to hide. At least they know how to hide. Kakashi thought. Naruto made a shadow clone to keep an eye on Kakashi and jumped through the treetops to a point he knew his sensei wouldn't be able to see. He then started thinking about the test. There was something really fishy about it. No genin would be able to beat a jonin, especially not an elite jonin like Kakashi in a one-on-one situation. So there was more to this. Look underneath, Kakashi had said. What was the hidden intent of the test? After he had disposed of Sakura by using a weak Jinjutsu, really, and the teachers at the academy had written she had an aptitude for Jinjutsu, Kakashi was confronted with Sasuke, who stated he was different from the other two. Well, we will see if that is true. Kakashi calmly said. First Sasuke tried to engage Kakashi into jutsu. Kakashi had to admit, Sasuke was good for a student fresh out of the academy, he even managed to touch the bells with the tips of his fingers. That was impressive even if he was holding back against his genin. He threw Sasuke at a distance. Sasuke shot a great fireball jutsu at Kakashi, who was surprised because no normal genin should have so much chakra. When the fireball ran out of energy, Sasuke looked around. Where was Kakashi? Left, no, right, no, above, no. He thought. Below. He then heard and was pulled underground by his feet. Not bad Sasuke, really not bad. But you still didn't get a bell. Perhaps the Uchiha aren't all what they are said to be. Kakashi said and left his student to ponder. Sasuke was fuming, how did Kakashi dare to insult his clan? Naruto meanwhile had the answer and it gave him a headache. Teamwork. How the hell should he achieve that? None of his two so-called teammates would be willing to work with him. He had his shadow clone that was trailing and observing Kakashi dispel to get the information about the Jonin's fighting style. He processed the memories of the clone and then went to have his turn. He made two shadow clones to get his down teammates and to explain them the test's meaning. He reached Kakashi's position and went through some hand seals. Illusion art. Cloak of invisibility. Naruto whispered and vanished from sight. He silently closed in on Kakashi's position, trying to use his high level of stealth to steal the bells without Kakashi noticing him. He didn't really want to show his true abilities when Sasuke and Sakura were possibly watching. The Jinjutsu was a B rank 1, but they would never really know that. If those two found out too early what he could really do, they would bitch to the council and try to have him forced to teach the emo all his techniques, so not going to happen. Naruto was now directly below the bells on the ground. Kakashi seemed to not notice him. He reached for the bells when his hand was caught. He kicked out at Kakashi and jumped back. How had he known? He led his Jinjutsu on trying to figure out what had gone wrong. You're really good, Naruto. I wouldn't have thought you to use a Jinjutsu that hid you that perfectly, but I have been confronted with a similar one in the third Shinobi War against Iwa. Kakashi said and lowered his book. Naruto saw he had uncovered his left eye. Sharingan. That's totally unfair in a genin test, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto complained and let the Jinjutsu go. That might be true, but then again, you are no real genin, right? Kakashi replied. So you were told. Naruto said. Of course. As your sensei I need to know which level you are at to properly train you. Hokage-sama told me of your test. I have to say I am impressed. So I decided when I felt a little chakra disruption from your shadow clone dispelling that I would be prepared to take you serious. Kakashi answered. How far do you want to go? I don't want to show all I can do, or I fear the bastard and the Banshee will run to the council to try and get me to give up my techniques to him. That won't happen with the Hokage in charge, but I don't really want to have to see the council at all. Naruto explained. Kakashi covered his Sharingan again and put his book back in his pouch. Understandable. So how about you restrict yourself to jutsu a chunin could know? Kakashi asked. Sure. It will give me something to do until my clones tell me if they manage to get the two idiots to work with me. So you know what my test is about? Kakashi asked. Yes, teamwork. I just have problems to see them listening to me. Naruto said and went into the cheetah-style opening position. Kakashi was ready and the two started with Taijutsu. Naruto tried to confuse Kakashi with his speed, but the experienced Jonin blocked all his attempts to land hits. That will be hard to work against me. After all, my sensei used the same style of Taijutsu, Naruto. Kakashi said. Naruto knew that, but he had some surprises in his style. He finally got close enough for a grazing hit on Kakashi's lower thigh. He used his chakra in his hands to damage a muscle slightly. Kakashi jumped back. I see, not completely your father's style then. You included elements of your own. He pondered. Naruto followed Kakashi, trying to press a slight advantage. But Kakashi decided it was time to include ninjutsu in the fight. He changed positions with a log, which was hit by Naruto's overhead kick. Naruto was on guard. He knew Kakashi could attack from everywhere. Then he jumped up and grabbed the branch of the tree when Kakashi shot out of the ground. Naruto circled the branch and used the momentum to attack again. He unsealed his bow staff from his glove and started attacking. The greater reach of the staff enabled him to press Kakashi into defense. But Kakashi decided he needed to up his game. High release. Phoenix flower. He said and shot some fireballs at Naruto. Naruto reacted immediately, putting the staff on his back while jumping back and flying through his own hand seals. Water release. Water bullet. He shouted and shot a water bullet from his mouth against the fire jutsu. The water overpowered the fire. Naruto shot a flurry of senbon at Kakashi, which only hit another log. In the bushes Sasuke was fuming from envy. Naruto was giving Kakashi a hard time in the fight. It seemed like Naruto was a lot better than he had thought. Are you now willing to listen? The Naruto clone behind him asked. What do you want? Sasuke jeered. The whole damn test is about teamwork. We pass if we work together. I don't like you any more than you like me, and we both detest the Banshee. I only want you to push that aside and show Kakashi that we can work together if the situation requires it. The whole getting a bell is setting us up against each other. That's why he told us to look underneath the underneath. You see my original fighting out there. Kakashi is one of the strongest ninja we have in the village, a former Anbu captain. Do you really think we have a chance against him alone? If you really want to reach your goal you need his training, so we need to play by his rules. Nobody demands that we like each other, we only need to reach the mission goal. Naruto said. Sasuke thought about what the clone had said. He hated to admit it, but it was true. He couldn't get a bell from Kakashi, he had tried. And now it seemed that his sensei had even held back. He would have to push his pride aside until he could go after Itachi. Okay, we do it. Do you have a plan? Sasuke asked. Yes, you order Sakura to distract him with thrown weapons, then attack him with your fire jutsu. I will increase the strength of your jutsu with my own and hide a few weapons in it. Naruto said, relieved that Sasuke had finally seen sense. You can use fire jutsus? Sasuke asked, surprised. He had thought Naruto to be a water element. No, but a wind jutsu. The water jutsu you saw is my defense against fire users. Wind is weak against fire, but can also be used to increase the strength of a fire jutsu. Naruto told him. Sasuke nodded. They didn't have time to discuss this. Where is Sakura? Sasuke asked. About 500 meters away at 245 degrees. Naruto answered. Be ready in 5. Sasuke said and went to order Sakura to do her part. The clone made another clone and dispelled it to inform the original. The real Naruto was now on defense and tried to avoid Kakashi's attacks. Damn, his sensei was really good. He replaced himself with a log when Kakashi shot another fire attack at him. He then got the message from his clone. Thank God Sasuke's ambition was strong enough to override his pride for short periods of time. Naruto went to hide again and waited for the signal. Then several kunai were thrown from the bushes. They were not very fast, but they were on target. Kakashi deflected them without problems. Then Sasuke shot his fireball, and the Naruto clone strengthened it with a wind jutsu. The real Naruto waited at the side, expecting Kakashi to replace himself with a log. He knew which log he would probably use, so he aimed a bunch of coated senbon at the place. Kakashi managed to deflect all but one of them and quickly pulled it out of his arm. Kakashi attacked Naruto's position with a flurry of shuriken, forcing Naruto to move. Kakashi made a shadow clone of himself that got him out of danger. Naruto followed, but had to fight the shadow clone. Sasuke, get the bells, you have 2.5 minutes. Naruto shouted. The shadow clone of Kakashi managed to keep his original safe for 1.5 minutes. Then Sasuke closed in on their position and tried to grab the bells only to be stopped by a weakened Kakashi. Kakashi still defended the bells, and then the alarm rang. Damn. Naruto said. We were so close. Kakashi ordered the 3 genin to the starting point. He tied Sakura to the post. Nice try, but you all didn't get the bells. Kakashi said. No, but that wasn't the intention of the test, wasn't it, Kakashi-sensei? Sasuke asked. He had realized while they fought together that their chance to get the bells had increased, so Naruto was probably right. So you also understood it. Sakura, do you also know the true meaning of the test? The secret to pass? Kakashi asked. Huh? A true meaning? She wondered. Obviously not. But you still helped your teammates in the last attempt to get the bells. Why? Kakashi asked. Sasuke said I should. She answered. Naruto shook his head. The girl was so stupid and was praised as the smartest kunoichi in their class. Naruto, tell her. Kakashi said. The true test was if we could work together as a team. Alone none of us would have had a chance against an elite jonin like Kakashi-sensei. Together we had a chance, like you saw in the end. Naruto said. Correct. I wanted to test if you could put your own interest aside and work for the overall goal of the mission, getting the 2 bells. I am happy that you in the end did it, even if not all of you understood the meaning of the test. Therefore you all pass. All of the genins' faces lit up, even Naruto's a little bit. In our line of work, teamwork is the most important factor for the success of a mission. You have to always remember that rules and guidelines are not absolute. If you followed the rules and fought on your own to get a bell, you would have overall lost, even if you would have managed to get one. Those that break the rules are trash in the ninja world, but those that abandon their comrades are lower than trash. Always remember that. Konoha became the strongest of the 5 great shinobi villages by following this mentality. We fought in 3 wars and came out victorious because we cherished our comrades. Individual strength of a ninja is important, but without teamwork even the strongest can be brought down. Believe me, I have experienced it. Look at this stone. Kakashi pointed at the memorial stone. On this stone the names of those we call heroes in Konoha are engraved. All those ninja died in the line of duty. They are never forgotten because their comrades keep their memories alive. Right, we are done for today. Tomorrow we will start our training. Be at this training ground at 6 in the morning for physical training. Kakashi ordered. Naruto nodded and walked away after hitting Sakura's binds with a shuriken to free her. In the Hokage's office the Jonin were assembling to report the results of their genin tests. Even Kakashi was only 15 minutes late, which wondered the others. After the first 6 teams had been reported to have failed, it was Kakashi's turn. Team 7 passed. He said. The others stared at him unbelievingly. It was well known that Kakashi never passed a team. Kurenai then got out of her shock and reported. Team 8 passed. She said. Asuma was last. Team 10 passed. He said. Okay, that means we have 3 new teams under Kakashi, Kurenai and Asuma. Very good. The ones who failed their teams can go, the other 3 stay. The Hokage said. When the others left the room, the Hokage turned to the new senseis. I would like a short overview over the things you think you need to work on with your teams. He told the 3. Ladies first. Kakashi said to Kurenai, who rolled her eyes. Okay, Kiba Inuzuka has a good base in his clan's techniques, but he is very brash. I will have to work with him to not just rush into a fight but assess his opponent's strengths and weaknesses. He could also use training in chakra control and jinjutsu detection. Shino Aburam needs to increase his chakra reserves to better assess his combination attacks with his bugs and to work on his taijutsu as he can't use many ninjutsu without his bugs like all Aburam. But he has a very firm grip on strategy and knows how to work on a team. It was his planning that got my team to pass my test. Hinata Hyuga needs to overcome the belief that she will always fail that has been instilled into her by her clan. If she could do that she would be a lot stronger than she already is. She can use her Byakugan at an acceptable level for somebody her age, but I have the feeling something is off with her taijutsu. It just doesn't seem to suit her fully. She has a good grasp on dispelling jinjutsu and tries to get along with her teammates. Kurenai said. I see. I want you to not only concentrate on training them as a tracking team, get them to be flexible. You have a team that consists of 3 clan heirs who all have had additional training in their clan's techniques. Be creative in how you train them. If possible, get them ready for the chunin exams in 6 months. It would look good for Konoha if we could present some clan heirs in the exams. Next. The Hokage said. Okay, I guess Kakashi wants to go last as he had the most difficult team of us. Asuma said. Shikamaru Nara is your typical lazy Nara. He worked well together with Ino and Choji, but that was to be expected of an Ino-Shikacho trio. Shikamaru needs to get motivated. His techniques are okay, he used one of his clan's special jutsu to capture me. I didn't see any taijutsu from him, but considering his build he needs more physical training. Choji was following Shikamaru's plan to get the mission done with the least possible amount of work. He was in a supportive role. He needs to work on ninjutsu, jinjutsu and speed. His power is above average, like you normally expect from an Akamichi. Ino is a problem. While she worked with her teammates she was complaining that she wasn't on a team with Sasuke Uchiha all the time and about the lack of motivation in her teammates. She is physically weak and has no stamina. The only way she could help with the test was that Shikamaru caught me and she could take over my body with a mind control jutsu. She didn't seem to have abilities above the academy jutsu, which she didn't really utilize as well. Asuma reported. Okay. Asuma, get your team in gear. You have the same directions as Kurenai, which also holds true for Kakashi. The chunin exams. Don't let your team slack in their training. If necessary put them through the grinder. Get their individual skills up. You have worked with Naras and Akimichis in the past, so you know how to handle them. I want both of your teams to be the face for the new genin teams in the village. You will take at least 1 D rank mission a day from next week on. Train your teams to be coherent units. This generation we have a lot of strong individuals and we will need them in the future. Okay, Kakashi, your report. The Hokage said, leaving the 2 Jonin who had already reported wondering what was going to happen, but they were given such orders. Something was up. I will start with Sakura. It seems like only Kurenai didn't get a fangirl in her team. But your fangirl, Asuma, does at least seem to accept her teammates somewhat. Sakura is weak. There is no other way to say it. She doesn't have any individual skills above what the academy teaches, and she didn't show anything impressive during the test. She only ran after Sasuke like a sick puppy, completely disregarding stealth. The only thing she did in the test was throwing some weapons to help with Naruto's plan on Sasuke's orders. I will have to put her through harsh physical training. The reports of the academy told she was skilled in Genjutsu, yet she fell for a simple D rank 1 and fainted. Which one? Kurenai interrupted. The Monarch illusion. Hell viewing technique. Kakashi answered. But that is a standard one that should be used at the academy to train them in detecting and breaking out of Genjutsu. Kurenai said disbelievingly. I know, that was the reason I used it. I wanted to see if the reports were correct. I have the impression they are not. I would advise you to check up the teaching the academy did in this year. The only ones that passed are the clan heirs and Sakura because her teammates pulled her through. I have a suspicion that the teachers in their attempts to sabotage Naruto did more damage than we already thought. The Hokage nodded. That was a problem. Normally at least a handful of students from civilian background passed. Next is Sasuke. He is skilled for a genin fresh out of the academy, but he has a serious attitude problem. His obsession with Itachi makes him completely disregard his teammates. He tried to get the bells from me on his own and argued a long time with Naruto after he had lost his one-on-one with me that he didn't need help because he was an Uchiha. It took Naruto telling him what the meaning of the test was and using his weakness, Itachi, to get Sasuke to cooperate. Naruto more or less told him if he wanted to pass he needed to work with him and Sakura and that he would be stupid to let his pride get in the way of getting the best possible training from me as I am a former Anbu captain. Kakashi said. How does Naruto know that? Kurenai asked. I guess he recognized me by my voice or has more information on the ninja in the village than I thought. I have had a lot of contact with Naruto when he was little as one of his guards. Naruto performed exceptionally well. He saw through the test and got his teammates to work with him. He also displayed great skills in all areas we test genin in, Genjutsu, Ninjutsu and Taijutsu. His academy report is only good for burning. Nothing in there is true. As you told me, Naruto dislikes both his teammates immensely but is willing to treat them neutrally to get a mission done. My team will never last past the chunin exams, but I think I can make it a workable unit. Kakashi said. We thought as much when the team was built. Okay, you already have your orders how to work with your team, Kakashi. The Hokage said. Why does Kakashi already have orders, Hokage-sama? After all he never passed a team before. Kurenai asked. Because I had to pass this team. The civilian council ordered me to pass them, but with their performance I would have done it either way. I have special orders for the next 6 months to smooth out mistakes that were made in the past with both Naruto and Sasuke. And you know I am the only one who can teach Sasuke in using his Sharingan as I have one myself, that is once he awakens it. Kakashi said. The problem is the council has put Sasuke on a pedestal in the village. Especially the civilians, but also some of the clans, see him as a potential source of power for them in the future. He is the only one who can bring back the Uchiha clan in Konoha and with them the Sharingan, one of the strongest bloodline limits. The problem is that their attitude didn't help with keeping Sasuke grounded. He's already fixated on his revenge. I fear with the littlest information on Itachi he will go after him, ignoring his duty to the village. That's the reason Kakashi got special orders to keep his team away from missions that bring them in close contact with the villagers. I want to isolate Sasuke from the villagers as much as possible. Naruto was sabotaged all the time at the academy. The only teacher that treated him normal was Iruka because he didn't let his feelings of dislike cloud his professional attitude. But Naruto hit his true level of skill and intentionally passed as the dead last of his class. He wanted to be teamed up with Sasuke cause he knew the council would pull the strings to pass Sasuke for sure. Naruto is a flight risk as well. With the hatred he was shown all his life he has built a strong resent for the village and only a few things hold him here. Naruto can be a strong asset to the village if we handle him right now, but he could also become its worst enemy. I want to prevent this. The Hokage said. Kurenai and Asuma nodded. They didn't want to imagine what Naruto could do if he let loose with Kyuubi's power. Is there a risk he would use that power? Asuma asked. He wouldn't need to. He has other ways. And he doesn't know yet how to use it. But the fox could use his negative emotions if they get too strong for Naruto to deal with them. The Hokage said seriously. He didn't want to have to kill Naruto to protect the village. At the moment the boy was still loyal and there was a good chance to keep him that way if Kakashi succeeded. And Kakashi needed to get ready to take over the Hokage position if necessary. If Kakashi managed to bond with Naruto and became his successor, Naruto would still stay loyal after he retired or died. He had already written down his intention to make Kakashi his successor. He wanted to discuss it with Jiraiya first, but he didn't really see any way that his student would take the position. He would support Kakashi though. Harsh training. Team 7 was present at their training ground at 6 like Kakashi had asked. When 5 minutes past 6 Kakashi hadn't appeared, Naruto started jogging around the training ground. "Naruto, you idiot, what are you doing?" Sakura yelled. Naruto just shot a senbon at her to shut her up. It hit and she wasn't fast enough to pull it out before the poison started working. Sakura stood again paralyzed in the spot she had been. Naruto kept running. After 10 laps, he started stretching. Just when he wanted to start with strength exercises, Kakashi appeared in a cloud of smoke. Sakura was freed from the paralyzing poison and wanted to hit Naruto. "Sakura, stop it. Sasuke, report what happened," Kakashi ordered. At 5 past 6, Naruto started running around the field. Sakura shouted at him what he was doing. Naruto hit her with one of his senbons that are coated in a paralyzing poison again, and he continued his exercises. He just finished stretching, and Sakura got over the effect of the poison when you appeared. Sasuke said. "I see." "Sakura, what reason did you have for shouting at Naruto?" Kakashi asked. "He is just trying to make himself look better than Sasuke. And he should have waited for you to tell us what we should do," she accused Naruto. "Naruto, what do you have to say?" Kakashi asked. "I have sensitive hearing and warned her several times now that I won't take her screeching anymore. She is a kunoichi and should behave like that if she doesn't want to be killed on a mission. And the poison just paralyzes her for some minutes. This type had duration of 10 minutes. I was doing general warm-up exercises to use the time until you came efficiently. Nothing more than running and stretching. I would have continued with push-ups if you hadn't appeared," Naruto said. "I see. Sakura, work on your attitude. There is no reason to yell at your teammate for doing a warm-up to breach time. There are some reasons I won't be on time sometimes, so I expect you to do something useful while I take care of other things. You are considered adults since you became ninja, so behave like that. You can't expect that everything will be told to you. I don't care what you do while you wait for me, as long as it helps with your development as a ninja. But while waiting for physical training to begin, warming up is the most logical choice. Naruto, please refrain from paralyzing your teammates, you can never know what will happen. If there would have been an attack, she wouldn't have been able to defend herself, and you and Sasuke would have had to cover her until your poison wore off," Kakashi said sternly. In his head he cursed the mess the civilian council had left for him to clear up. He would really like to introduce them to his 1,000 years of death technique, especially Sakura's mother. "Understood, sensei," Naruto said, accepting Kakashi's reasons even if in the village the probability of an attack was pretty slim. He thought Kakashi was capable of faking an attack just to get his point across. "Good, now the first thing we will work on is your stamina. Our team has a focus on combat. Therefore you will have to be able to last in a fight. We will start with running 15 laps around the training ground. I will take your time to see where you stand in your training. Today I will mainly get an impression of your physical abilities before we will work on some formations for missions. Ready, set, go." Kakashi said and the three started. Soon it was obvious that Naruto was way better trained than the other two, even if Sasuke did a good job for a rookie. Sakura was panting after 3 rounds already. Naruto finished with 2 rounds on Sasuke. The proud Uchiha didn't like the lead Naruto had and increased his speed for the last 2 rounds. Then he sat down next to Naruto waiting for Sakura to finish. "I would advise you to do some stretching while you wait," Naruto said to Sasuke. Sasuke's first instinct was to tell Naruto off, but the blonde was already doing his own exercises again. He had to admit it would be a good filling of time, and from what Kakashi had told them just a bit earlier, he expected them to fill spare time during training efficiently. So he started with the stretching. Finally 5 rounds after Sasuke had finished his laps, Sakura was done. She fell on her knees panting. We really need to work on your stamina, Sakura. A graduate like you should be able to easily run 15 laps for warming up. Get to stretching for 5 minutes, then we will do the next exercise," Kakashi said, shaking his head. He looked at Naruto and Sasuke who were doing strength exercises. "Good performance you two. Sasuke, Naruto, how many repetitions of your exercises are you doing at the moment?" he asked. 50 of each, Kakashi-sensei. Sasuke answered, glad he had taken Naruto's advice. Perhaps the blonde really knew what he did. 100 of each, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto said. Good. That's a good level for your current levels. Sasuke, we will work over the next months to get you to the same level Naruto is right now. For a fresh graduate you are doing really well. Don't try to overdo it too fast just to catch up with Naruto. He has trained harder and more than you in the past, that is all there is to it. If you keep up your work like you do at the moment, you will get there soon enough. Kakashi said. Sasuke didn't understand it. How could Naruto have trained more than him? He trained 3 hours each day after the academy. How would Naruto be able to top that? But Kakashi seemed to see his potential, so he must have done something right. Just what had Naruto done better than him? And how did he hide it? I trained from 6 every morning to 9 in the evening. I sent a shadow clone to the theoretical lessons in the academy to take my place after I learned that jutsu. That's the time advantage I had on you. Naruto said, seeing Sasuke's look. What? Sasuke asked. You wondered how I managed to train more than you. That's the answer. Naruto said and changed his exercise. Sasuke really wondered about his teammate. He didn't hide his dislike for both him and Sakura, but he still gave him useful information. He didn't understand. Kakashi watched the exchange. He was glad that Naruto at least talked to Sasuke professionally. He had no illusions that the boys could ever become friends. It would need a miracle to achieve that. But a healthy working attitude would be enough for him. Perhaps Naruto knew that too. They were worse than him and Obito had been. And they had more emotional scars from the past than him and Obito had had. And Sakura was nothing like Rin, who had moderated between them. Sakura was finished with her stretching exercises. Kakashi knew she wouldn't keep up if he didn't give her a short break, so he decided he would hold a short quiz about optimizing their training. Good, now that you are all warmed up, we will have a few things cleared before we start with the next part. Who can tell me what is the most important thing for a ninja to do besides training right to get strong? He asked. Sakura raised her hand. We aren't at the academy. You don't need to raise your hand anymore, Sakura. Kakashi informed her. Oh, okay, Kakashi-sensei. The most important thing is learning about theory. Politics, geography, strategy and the like. She answered. That's good to know but not the most important thing. Kakashi said. Sakura was shocked. That had always been the most important thing at the academy. The academics. The balanced diet. Sasuke answered. Correct, why? Kakashi asked. Our bodies need certain nutrients to give us the energy for training and to build up muscles. With too little food or the wrong kind of food we are hindering our development. We need carbohydrates, fats and proteins, vitamins and water to have our bodies work properly. Naruto continued. Exactly. So what would be the worst thing for a ninja to do? He asked. Dieting. Sasuke answered. But how would one keep their figure if they don't diet? Sakura protested. She was on a diet after all to impress Sasuke with her figure. The male members of the team looked at her as if she was stupid. Ninjas don't need to diet because we work out all the time. We burn so much energy over the day that we need to eat a lot more than civilians. Where a normal working civilian would do well to keep his figure with about 2,000 calories, a ninja needs at least 3,500 with my understanding of normal training. You don't have to fear becoming fat with our training, I can guarantee that. Kakashi said. Additionally you hurt yourself if you diet at your age. Sakura needed some time to process that. Kakashi-sensei, are we going to learn how to hunt and fish? The academy mentioned that on longer missions, ninjas should know how to properly get at least proteins. But we were never taught how to hunt or fish. Sasuke asked. Yes, that will be part of our training, Sasuke. You will also learn about all the edible plants in Fire Country and the neighbor countries. Kakashi answered. Okay, enough of a break. Next I will test your speed. You will go over to the other side of the field and then sprint back to the posts here. Kakashi ordered and made a shadow clone to accompany them to give the start signals. Once they were in the other side, Kakashi let Sakura run first. She raced to the other side a bit faster than a trained civilian. Then Sasuke started, way faster than Sakura. Last was Naruto. Should I use my real speed, Kakashi-sensei? He asked. Yes. They need to know that you aren't a pushover. But leave your resistance seals activated. I don't want to make Sasuke more jealous than necessary. How did you know that I wear resistance seals? I didn't even tell old man Hokage about them. Naruto asked. You forget that your father was my sensei. He had all of us use them. Kakashi said. Go. He ordered and Naruto ran. He was nearly double as fast as Sasuke. Sakura fumed. How did the dead last dare to show up her Sasuke like that? You cheated, Naruto. She accused him. There is no cheating with ninjas, Sakura. Cheating as you call it is part of our jobs, get used to it. And Naruto didn't even strengthen his muscles with chakra or he would have been even faster. Kakashi admonished her. Don't accuse your teammates for something that is normal in the ninja world. Sasuke seemed to ring with himself. How could he get the same strength as Naruto? He was an elite, he should be stronger than Naruto. Was it really only the additional training Naruto had done? Okay, I guess you are wondering how Naruto can be this fast. Kakashi addressed Sasuke and Sakura. Both nodded. He has trained using resistance seals. Don't confuse them with gravity or weight seals, they work differently. A resistance seal does like its name say increase the resistance a body is confronted with. On the first level it feels like you are wading through water. With each additional level it gets harder. Using these seals helps you building up speed and strength. I will place those seals on both of you tomorrow morning before we start our training. They will stay activated the whole day, even when you sleep for 2 weeks. Then we will train with them deactivated to get you used to the effects. But that's for a later time. Kakashi explained. Sasuke nodded. So he would catch up over time. It seemed Kakashi really intended to make him stronger. This training was much better and harder than the one the academy had them do. Sakura was scared. How would she manage to stay a proper lady with the training her sensei planned to have them do? And why was Naruto already that much ahead? Okay, next part is coordination. Naruto, I would like your assistance. Kakashi took out a scroll from his pocket and opened it. He unsealed about 100 poles. Have your shadow clones place them in 3 lines with a distance of a meter between the poles. The lines are to be 10 meters next to each other. Kakashi ordered. Naruto nodded and made 20 shadow clones that took the poles and placed them in lines. I want you to run slalom through the poles 3 times over to the other side and back. I will take your times. Ready, set, go. He said and the 3 ran again. Kakashi had them do 50 push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, jumping jacks and lifting weights each next. Then he let them walk on their hands through the slalom course. He wrote down all their times. Finally he declared it enough, much to the relief of Sakura. Okay, this is what we will be doing every day for warm-up. As running around the training ground isn't that interesting, I want you all to meet at the gate at 6 each morning to run 2 laps around the village. That's only for the beginning though, we will increase the laps once you get better stamina. After that we will start with stretching and strength exercises. Sakura, you will do 30 of all the exercises we did today. Sasuke, you will do 50, Naruto 80. That should take you about the same time. If one of you still has time until Naruto is finished, add a few repeats. After that I will tell you the exercise for the day. Kakashi said. Sakura looked ill, Naruto and Sasuke happy. That would be good training. Okay, I told you we would work on formations after our workout. We will go through different situations, I will tell you the standard formations and then you will practice them. Kakashi instructed them. It was lunchtime and Sakura lay on the ground groaning. This was not what she had expected from training. Kakashi handed out lunch to them and gave them bottles with water in which vitamins had been added. Naruto and Sasuke started eating and drank their water without comment. Sakura finally managed to push herself up. She didn't care about her diet at the moment. She was hungry and needed to eat something. She looked at the lunchbox and saw that there were some rice balls, some grilled fish, some green beans and tomatoes. Okay, well you eat, I want to give you some instructions for your meals. For breakfast, eat enough to last you 5 hours, but make sure it is balanced. For the drink take milk, cereals are good, some dark bread, cheese, sausage, eggs, and fruits. I will provide you with lunch to make sure you get enough nutrients for the first week, after that you should have an idea what to pack in your lunchboxes and how much. For dinner, meat and fish are always good, some noodles, rice, vegetables. You can also have sweet desserts, it won't matter if you eat sweets as I said, you will work the calories off no problem. Go to bed early enough because you will have to get up at 5 to get ready for training and eat breakfast without haste. Bring some snacks for short breaks with you. I recommend fruit or vegetables, some sandwiches or rice balls. They are meant to give you back some energy without being heavy. Kakashi lectured. He would do this correctly. And from tomorrow on he would join his team in their exercises. If he needed to get back to his old strength and increase it, he would have to use the time. He expected to be back to full strength in 3 months. Then he could work on getting better. Once his genin had eaten, he gave them half an hour off to relax. They could do whatever they wanted. He knew Sasuke and Sakura needed the recovery time. Naruto would probably be able to go on. Sakura seemed relieved about the break, Sasuke accepted it well enough and Naruto lay down to take a nap. Kakashi led his team to a group of trees that had nearly the same height. Okay, as I told you, one of the first exercises a genin has to learn is climbing vertical surfaces. Here in Konoha we do this by tree climbing. This exercise has a double benefit. For those with bigger chakra reserves like Naruto and Sasuke, it mainly helps them learn how to better control their chakra, next to the ability to climb all surfaces without problem. The better you control your chakra, the less chakra you waste using your jutsu, which means you can go longer in a fight and use more jutsu. For somebody with small reserves like Sakura, this is also an endurance exercise. By repeatedly doing this exercise until you master it, you build up your reserves, which will also lead to you being able to keep going longer. Kakashi explained and then walked up the tree without using his hands. As you see, I am sending my chakra to my feet. Finding the right amount of chakra is important, if you use too little chakra, you don't stick, if you use too much you will be repelled. He took out 3 kunai and threw them at his genin. You will mark your progress with these kunai. Naruto, make 4 clones and place them around the tree you're working on. Kakashi instructed. Naruto wondered what Kakashi had thought up but made the clones. Kakashi walked down the tree again. For the beginning it would be easiest if you took a running start. Now, Naruto, your clones have the job to try and keep you from reaching the top. I know that you already know this exercise, so we will make it harder for you by having your clones trying to hit you with some of your senbons," Kakashi said. Naruto nodded. He had already done the exercise with his clones throwing rubber balls and stones. Senbons would help him be even more motivated. And it wasn't like he wouldn't heal fast if he was hit. Sasuke was the first to take a running start. He got up some steps, then he was blown back. Sakura reached a branch high up in her first try. "This is easy, Kakashi-sensei," she announced. "Well done, Sakura, but I said that it will be an endurance exercise for you. You will run to the top of your tree and down for as long as you can. Once you can't keep it up anymore, take 5 minutes break and then start again," Kakashi told her. Sakura gulped. She never had to train this hard before. But she wanted to impress Sasuke and this exercise could be one she could do well. So she started running to the top, then back down. She had to pause on the ground shortly. This was harder than it first seemed. Then she had to run up and down again. Sasuke had some problems too. He was blown away at a certain height all the time. He was getting more and more frustrated. Especially as in the tree next to him, Naruto was showing great skills in the exercise already and was dodging the senbons his clones threw at him while still keeping the tree walking up. "Sasuke, you have to concentrate and keep your calm. Your chakra is influenced by your emotions. So if you are getting angry, it will be harder to practice control," Kakashi said. Sasuke, after he had been blown off again, tried to follow his sensei's instructions. He took some deep breaths to calm down. He concentrated his chakra to his feet. Then he ran at the tree again. He passed his former mark by 7 feet before he was blown away again. He grinned, okay, that was the trick. He had to gain control over his emotions and his chakra. He looked over to Sakura, who was sweating and breathing hard, hunched over. She really had little stamina. Results of the first day of training. That evening Kakashi dismissed his genin team at 6 and reminded them that he would place the resistance seals on Sasuke and Sakura tomorrow and therefore they were meeting at training ground 3 before they would start their laps around the village. Naruto left first to go home. He wanted to work on a seal. Sasuke also walked home, feeling the effects of the hard training he had done over the day. He had to say he was pleased with how the training had gone. True, Naruto was better than him at the moment, but he would catch up. It was only a question of the right training. He felt he was now finally getting closer to Itachi. And he would endure all the hard training Kakashi could throw at him if it got him strong enough to kill Itachi. Sakura felt dead tired. She had never before done that kind of training. She thought Kakashi-sensei was a sadist. How the hell could the boy stand this? Well, Naruto was a freak, her mother had always told her that, and Sasuke was Sasuke. It was normal that he was better than all others. When she reached her home she remembered what Kakashi had told them about eating right. She would eat something tonight. But she would also make sure it wouldn't make her fat. She wasn't convinced that a ninja could eat all he wanted. "Hello Sakura, how was your day?" her mother asked. "Strenuous. Please, I need something to eat," she answered. "Sweetie, aren't you on a diet to impress Uchiha-sama?" her mother asked, frowning. "Kakashi-sensei forbid me to diet and told me that ninja wouldn't get fat with all the training they do. I am not completely sure about that though, but if we are training like today all the days, I have to eat more than before. Can I have some salad and fruit?" she asked. Her mother contently nodded. Salad and fruit didn't have a lot of calories. That Jonin didn't seem to understand the principles of getting a good husband. But what could be expected from a man? She took to cutting salad, cucumber and tomatoes and prepared a bit of dressing for her daughter. "Here, sweetie, there you are. A nice salad to fill your stomach, but which won't make you fat," she said smiling. "Thanks mum," Sakura said and began eating. "So what did you do for training?" her mother asked. "Kakashi-sensei tested our physical abilities today. Of course Sasuke was great. He was so much better than me. We had to run 15 laps around the training ground, then we had to sprint from one side of the ground to the other. A slalom through poles, sets of 50 repeats for different exercises. Then we got a lecture on the right diet for a ninja. Can you believe that Kakashi-sensei thinks a ninja should eat 3,500 calories a day?" Sakura asked. "What? But that will make you fat. There is no way you could keep a good figure to impress Sasuke-sama if you ate that much." Her mother was scandalized. "I know. But he seems serious. For the next week Kakashi-sensei will provide our lunch so we can get an idea what we should pack," he said. "We are to bring snacks for morning and afternoon breaks. Something like fruit, sandwiches, rice balls or vegetables. And a lot to drink. He also recommended eating meat and fish, I think he said for building muscles." Sakura reported. "But that would make you look ugly. What self-respecting woman would want to look like a muscle mountain?" Sakura's mother asked. "I don't know, but obviously both Sasuke and Naruto agreed with Kakashi." Sakura sighed. "Naruto? He is your second teammate." her mother asked worried. Yes. But he is such a nuisance. He is mean to me and disrespects Sasuke. Just because I told him off for starting to train without Kakashi-sensei being there, he shot me with a senbon with one of his paralyzing poisons. I couldn't move for 10 minutes. Sakura complained. He poisoned you? I will take care of that. I won't allow for that freak to harm my daughter. Sakura's mother screeched. Sakura nodded. Naruto would see what happened if you treated her badly. After all, her mother was on the civilian council. Okay, when do you have to be at your training ground tomorrow? Her mother asked. At 6. Sakura said. He even takes your beauty sleep away. If you weren't on Sasuke-sama's team and therefore in the best position to win him as your husband, I would demand for you to be put on another team, but you will just have to persevere and show Sasuke that you are the only suited girl for him. She said. Don't worry, Mum. I will win him and then I will become Mrs. Sakura Uchiha once we are old enough. Sakura said dreamily. That's my girl. Her mother said proudly. The next morning at 10, Asami Haruno walked to the meeting room of the civilian council and told that her daughter had been poisoned by the demon. Of course all the other counselors were enraged and thought they now finally had something to get the demon for. They had an Anbu that listened to them sent out so that Naruto was called in. At training ground 3 Team 7 was again going through physical training, this time Kakashi was doing his own exercises at the side of his team. Then an Anbu appeared. Kakashi looked up and asked the Anbu what he wanted. Naruto Uzumaki is to immediately appear at the Hokage Tower on orders of the council. The Anbu informed Kakashi. You say the council gave this order? Kakashi asked. Yes, Kakashi. The Anbu confirmed. He has training now and if you don't have orders from the Hokage I won't let him leave his training. When you have orders from the Hokage come back. Kakashi said and went back to his exercises. The Anbu looked at Kakashi as if he was from another planet, but he also knew that the ex-Anbu wouldn't budge on his opinion. And as the demon brat sensei he had the power to forbid the brat to leave his training. The Anbu decided it would be best to return to the council to report. In the meeting room the council was preparing to rip the demon apart but the only one returning was the Anbu they had sent. Where is the boy? Asami asked. He won't come. Kakashi Haddock gave me the message that he would only let his student leave his training if you had orders from the Hokage. Otherwise his student would stay with him to train. The Anbu said. How dare he? Ginbi Rinohara asked enraged. He was a wealthy merchant. We are the council, we deserve respect. Wakata Tichi said. Who does he think he is? I will get that order from the Hokage. Just he waits. Asami said and stormed to the Hokage's office. The Hokage was working on his paperwork, questioning himself how it always was so much paperwork he had to do. But he couldn't delegate it either because the council would try to pass laws that were only meant to increase their wealth or screw Naruto over. Then Asami Haruno stormed into his office. He would have to remind her who ruled the village. Okage-sama, I demand that the boy and his sensei are called in. The brat poisoned my daughter yesterday, but when we sent him a messenger to call him before the council, his sensei refused to let him go. He said he would only allow it if you gave the order. She ranted loudly. Counselor Haruno, you want to tell me that you think you can command me? He asked dangerously. No, Hokage-sama, of course not, but he poisoned my daughter. She said, realizing she had made a mistake by just charging into the office. Do you think you have more power over my ninja than me? The Hokage asked again. No, Hokage-sama. She answered. Then why do you think you can use the Anbu guard the civilian council got as a messenger to command one of my ninja? If you want to question one of my ninja, you will first inform me of the supposed crime, said ninja committed. Then I will decide if an order to appear here is justified. Do you understand? He asked icily. Yes, Hokage-sama. She answered intimidated. Good. And your so-called poisoning of your daughter was a paralyzing agent that only worked for 10 minutes. Kakashi already took care to solve the issue yesterday and reported to me what he did to prevent such an incident in the future. Make no mistakes, I know what you tried to do. This is your last warning. Stop sabotaging Naruto Uzumaki or you will regret it. Naruto is a ninja under my command and therefore you have no control over him anymore. Leave my office, I have to work. The Hokage dismissed her. When she had fled his office, he called Kat, one of his Anbus. Kat, fetch me all the Anbu that are tasked with guarding the civilian council. He ordered. Yes, Hokage-sama. Kat answered and vanished. 5 minutes later the 10 Anbu that rotated to guard the civilian council knelt before the Hokage. Which one of you was on guard duty for the civilian council today? The Hokage asked. I was, Hokage-sama. Lizard answered. Good, then please explain me, Lizard, why would you leave your post to play messenger for the council? The Hokage asked. They ordered me to fetch Naruto Uzumaki for questioning because he poisoned the daughter of Counselor Haruno. Lizard answered. Lizard, do you know the chain of command? The Hokage asked the obviously stupid Anbu. Of course, Hokage-sama. Lizard said, not knowing what this was about. Others started seeing what the Hokage was up to. Then please inform me where in that chain the civilian council ranks. The Hokage asked. The council is directly under the Hokage. Lizard answered. Pat, please inform this stupid moron of the true chain of command. The Hokage said, angrily. The civilian council is nowhere in the chain of command. The only part of the council that has commanding power is the ninja council. They rank under the Hokage, the Jonin commander and the Anbu commander, meaning they would be in fourth rank of the chain of command, but only in times where the Hokage is absent from the village or in no condition to command the forces, which would be in case of a severe illness or death. In case of an illness, the normal ninjas are under the command of the Jonin commander, which at the moment is Shikaku Nara, the Anbu are under the command of the Anbu commander, which is me. The ninja council is only consulted in case both Jonin commander and Anbu commander need more authority to get something done. Cat told them. Thank you, Cat. So, get it in your brains that the civilian council has no power to command any of my ninja. The only other orders you are to follow are those of Cat or if he isn't available too, the ninja council. I thought my Anbu would know that. So you will only guard the civilian council from the shadows and only one Anbu at a time. You won't make contact and won't follow any of their orders. Am I understood? The Hokage said. Yes, Hokage-sama. The Anbu answered. Dismissed. The Hokage said and the Anbu vanished. The Hokage rubbed his temples. This shouldn't even be an issue. He really needed to clean this mess up as soon as possible. Asami returned to the meeting room and told her fellow counselors the reaction of the Hokage. They were enraged but realized there was nothing they could do at the moment. The Hokage had the power to deny them their request and could delegate the punishment of one of his ninjas, especially a genin, to said genin's Jonin sensei. And going up against Kakashi Haddock wasn't a smart thing to do. But they had thought Kakashi would listen to their orders, after all he had followed them and passed his team. Sakura felt like her legs were made of lead. She couldn't feel them anymore. The resistant seal Kakashi sensei had placed on her first thing in the morning was horrible. She felt like she couldn't move at all. This was not like wading through water, this was much harder. Thankfully they had a break now. She couldn't take another step. Sasuke was tired. The resistant seals were the real deal. No wonder that Naruto had become strong using them. But now that he was also using them, he would become that strong as well. It would take some time, but he knew the prize was worth it. He was getting closer to Itachi. He looked at his teammates and his sensei. Naruto didn't look any more tired than normal, but he was already used to working with this kind of seal. Kakashi of course was also doing well. He had been surprised that his sensei had joined them doing the exercises, but also pleased. It felt like they were all comrades to him, not only subordinates he had to train. Of course Kakashi's training program was harder than theirs, but it was something to strive to get to. The worst part of the day was the morning run. He had felt so damnable slow with the seal. Especially when Kakashi and Naruto ran more laps than him and Sakura. He had been jealous of Naruto again, but he swallowed his feelings and told himself he would soon enough surpass his blonde teammate. And Naruto had even told him the key to learn using the seals faster. You had to strengthen your muscles with chakra. Once it felt normal again if you used chakra, you had to reduce the amount of chakra to get the same effect on your own. Well, except if you didn't train, then it would be best to just train your muscles without chakra. With the seals staying active for the next 2 weeks, he would see if that was true. Okay, that was enough of a break. Next part of our training is teamwork. Kakashi said. How are we going to do this, sensei? Naruto asked. We will do several exercises that will teach you to trust your teammates. Kakashi said. He took out 2 scarves and handed them to Sakura and Naruto. Tie them around your eyes. He instructed them. They did. Kakashi handed Sasuke a piece of wood and a small metal bar. Then he prepared some obstacles in a small round course. The intention of this test is to lead your teammate safely through the course, only using Morse code. You learned the code at the academy. Now, you will Morse them where to go, what to be aware of and so on. The only possibility they have to finish the course is following your instructions. No talking at all. Kakashi said. We will start with Naruto, then Sakura. Once you are finished, we will change places, I will change the course, and we will repeat it until each of you went through the course twice and led the others once. Kakashi said. Sasuke nodded. He took the wood and the metal bar and began drumming his message to lead Naruto. It was harder than he thought it would be. He had to remember all the commands. And morsing words like left, right, forward, stop and so on took more time than he thought they would. Thankfully Naruto seemed to know the Morse code well enough to follow his commands without problem. Finally Naruto was done. Now it was Sakura's turn. Sasuke began drumming again. Naruto took off his scarf and watched how Sakura fared. He had noticed some problems while he was in the course, and now by watching Sakura, the problems seemed even stronger. They needed shorter signals that weren't normal Morse code. Especially as remembering all the more signals was a problem if you were pressed for time, which he guessed would be the next thing Kakashi would have them do. So he went through the more signals and decided what would be proper short signals to work with. Finally Sakura, after misinterpreting the signals Sasuke gave her twice, was done with the course. Okay, next Sakura will give the signals and Naruto and Sasuke will do the course. Kakashi announced and Sakura handed her scarf to Sasuke, blushing. Sasuke just took the scarf and tied it around his head, Naruto put his back on. Kakashi changed the course and now Sakura was trying to get Sasuke through the course, which was a lot worse than the 2 tries Sasuke had with morsing. Sasuke ran into stones, tripped over logs, went too far to the left once because Sakura wasn't fast enough with her signals. When Sasuke was finally finished, he was cursing. Naruto then went into the course and after hitting a log, he always waited for Sakura to finish her signals. Once he heard new signals he stopped to process the new information. It took horribly long, but he avoided further problems that way. Next is Naruto morsing. Kakashi said. Sasuke, Sakura, I would use 4 signals outside the normal Morse code. 4 long signals mean left, 4 short ones mean right. 1 short and 1 long signal mean forward. 1 long and 1 short means back and 1 short signal, which will be louder than the rest means stop. The others I will Morse with normal Morse code. He explained them. Sasuke nodded. After the disaster with Sakura leading him that was sensible. Sakura grudgingly also nodded. She had hated being the worst in a discipline she should have been good at. But she hadn't thought to practice Morse code much in the academy. It was after all such an overcome method to send messages and everybody could overhear them. Sakura was the first to go through the change course now. Naruto's idea to shorten the commands was working well. She managed to get through the course with only making a mistake once and then the stop signal prevented something happening. Sasuke then went through the course and was happy to notice that with Naruto giving the signals he didn't get hit by obstacles once. He also noticed that he had to get used to differentiating left and right first as they were so similar. When he came out of the course, he took off the scarf and turned to Naruto. Your idea with shortening the signals worked well, but we should think of 2 signals that are more different from each other for left and right. A different number of signals would be best. In the beginning it was a bit confusing to recognize short and long signals. Sasuke informed Naruto. Okay, that makes sense. Perhaps left 2 short signals and right 4 short signals. As we stop after that signal it can't be thought to be a complete message anyway, so it doesn't matter if it is also the signal for a letter. Naruto admitted. Good, now I want to discuss the things you learned with this exercise. Kakashi said, having his team sit down. We had to always concentrate to get the signals of the one morsing. And with the shorter signals it was easier to get it. Sakura said. It takes practice to react accordingly to the signals. You can't rely on your own senses that much, as we normally rely on our eyes to navigate. Sasuke said. Wrong signals can be dangerous. If a signal is too long and not correct we hit the obstacles. Sometimes it was safer to go slowly than to hit something. Naruto said. All those are correct. This exercise teaches you to always find the best possible way to fulfill an exercise. As you noticed the shorter signals were easier to process. But even if you shorten them, you need to make them different enough to not get confused. We will practice with more signals in the future. I want you to make sure you are fluent in the signals the day after tomorrow. So if you are still a bit out of practice, I suggest you use the breaks tomorrow to read up on the code. Okay, now we will do something more physical again. Naruto, I need 20 shadow clones. Kakashi said. Naruto made the clones. You really are abusing my ability to make them, sensei. Naruto grumbled a bit. Well, tough luck. A ninja needs to use everything he has at his disposal, and for me that means sometimes using your shadow clone jutsu to get the necessary number of opponents for training exercises. And you know you don't even feel the drain of 20 clones. Kakashi said. Okay. We are practicing dodging projectiles now. I will demonstrate it. Naruto, have your clones throw those rubber balls on me. Kakashi said pointing at 2 bags full of red rubber balls the size of golf balls. Gladly, sensei. Naruto said with a grin. The clones took position around Kakashi. You can start in 20 seconds and keep it up for 5 minutes straight. Kakashi told the clones. They nodded and waited until the 20 seconds were up. Then they started pelting Kakashi with the balls. Kakashi dodged, jumped, deflected and spun out of the way of the balls. The only place on his body the balls ever hit was his hands. Then the 5 minutes were over. That's the exercise. You're only allowed to have the balls hit you on your hands to deflect them. In a fight you only have the possibility to deflect weapons that are thrown at you with kunai in your hands or by intercepting them with your own weapons. That will be part of a later exercise. For now, we'll only work on dodging and deflecting in a limited area. As you aren't as used to this kind of exercise as I am, you'll work with 10 shadow clones throwing balls at you each. Kakashi said. Naruto made 10 more clones. Then the clones spread to surround the 3 genin. Naruto was used to doing this with higher numbers of clones, but it wouldn't be good to inform his teammates of that fact yet. Kakashi gave the signal to start and had his genin practice dodging. In the evening at 8 Kakashi dismissed his team. He had Sasuke and Sakura continue their tree climbing while he took Naruto and played shogi with him. He was pleasantly surprised how well Naruto did with the strategy game. In the end Kakashi managed to win, but the game was pretty evenly matched. Kakashi walked towards the Hokage tower to hand in his report for the day and to ask the Hokage about the incident, with the civilian council calling Naruto in. He reached the office and knocked at the door. The Hokage, still working despite the late hour, called him in. "Ah, Kakashi. You had your team train long today." The Hokage noticed. "Yes, Hokage-sama. I think it's best for now to keep them busy. And it seems Sasuke is happy enough to train the whole day. I have the impression he didn't feel challenged enough at the academy. Naruto will take some time to warm up to me, but he is doing well so far. Today I played shogi with him while I had Sasuke and Sakura practice tree climbing. He is quite good in the game. I think he was really surprised when I told him that we would play shogi while the other two did their exercise. By the way, the civilian council sent an anbu to us, calling Naruto to the council. I refused to follow the order, but you should take care of that," Kakashi said. "I already did and put them in their place. I think they will still try to get rid of Naruto in the future, but the Anbu have already been reminded that I am the one who gives orders in the village. Cat is having an eye on the Anbu now to make sure they won't follow the council's orders anymore. I have called Shikaku to have him brief the normal forces on the issue," the Hokage informed Kakashi. "That's good to know. It's high time the council was reminded of their real power and not the one they think they have." Kakashi agreed. "Yes. I wish I could do more, but somehow the amount of paperwork I get doesn't let me," he complained. Kakashi had an idea. After seeing Naruto using the jutsu so much, he thought it would also help the Hokage. "Why don't you use shadow clones? I mean, I know that Naruto used them for his training, and I have to admit I am abusing his ability to make them for training the others as well. With the memory transfer they would be perfect to help you get the paperwork done much faster," Kakashi suggested. "Shadow clones?" the Hokage said, shocked. "Damn it, why didn't I think of that earlier? That must be the secret how Minato always managed to get it done so fast," he raged. "Well, sensei did use that jutsu for many things," Kakashi admitted. "From tomorrow on I will use it. I'm done for today." "Screw the paperwork," the Hokage declared. Kakashi's sweat dropped. Perhaps it would be best to just leave the Hokage now. He didn't seem to be that sane at the moment, judging by the insane laugh he was sporting now. What if Naruto has Dark Phoenix bloodline chunin exams? Thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.